Cool. Looks like we are live. I see it. I see it on the screen. I'm just looking for it on the.
I think we're also going to go live tonight to Twitch.
Oh, very cool.
So, being that it's a younger crowd, YHB might actually trigger some watchers. So that could be
Oh,
fun.
and I see it's there. Cool, cool. Let me just switch over. I'll post this and then I'll be ready. Oh, and I just got a notice. We're live on LinkedIn as usual. All the things. Okay, let me just put this here.
I'm gonna put my leg up. Oh Jesus!
Oh, come on. There you go. Boom. All right, let me go over to Insta. I'm just going to post a quick photo and let them know we're live. Link in the bio. And then I'll be ready. So, you ready to do this, bro?
Yeah.
All right, give me one quick second
We
and
got 2 minutes before we're supposed to start.
oh, my clock says 6 o'clock right on the nose, but
Oh, okay. Well then.
either way,
Oh, you're right.
it's
Okay.
all good.
You ready to do it then?
Okay, just give me 1 second. I just want to do one more thing. And there we go. Okay, my brother, have a fun show. This should be fun. On average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. By the time we finish this show, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. If we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy YHB here with the OG Glenn Victor, and you're watching the Dare Me podcast.
Damn.
Yes, you are. Welcome to the Dare Me podcast, everyone. It's your old pal Glenn Victor coming to you live from Sacramento, California. I want to say thank you to that boy YHB for the shout out right there. We do have a great interview with him on the show tonight. I am so excited to bring you a deep dive interview with YHB that we did with him last week, last Monday. If you follow our show, you're a regular viewer, listener, follow me on social media. You may know or may recall that I was visiting my second home, Orlando, Florida, last weekend. And we got to meet in person with YHB in Orlando and do a deep dive interview with him. And we met up with him at the PFX Media Dare Me podcast studio in Orlando, where our old pal and friend and co-host and producer Dean Baker is standing by live right now. So we're going to bring him on into the show. Hey, Dean, welcome to the Dare Me podcast. How's it going, bro?
Oh, things are going well. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm good. Now, I got to ask, Dean, because we talked about this in great detail last week. In case you didn't know, folks, if you're just, joining us on the show, Dean, and he told me it was okay to talk about this, unfortunately, had a mishap on motorcycle and broke his leg. And so we were without Dean a couple of weeks ago, but like a rock star, he came in and joined us last week. To do the live show. And then the day after that, came into the studio again, broken leg, crutches, wheelchair, and all to record that interview we're going to show tonight with YHB. So, anyway, Dean, I just got to ask, man, how's it going? You feeling okay, bro?
Oh yeah, I'm on the mend. It's been 2.5 weeks. Well,
Yeah.
2 weeks since the surgery.
Yeah.
2 weeks since the surgery. I'll get the staples out of my leg in a couple of days, and
Yeah.
I can't even think the last time I even had an Advil. So
Well, wow, man, that's great. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Dean. And again, I just want to say, folks, Dean and I talked about this. He's okay with us talking about it. I would never share his personal information without his permission. Dean, as you know, you shared with us, you were prescribed opioid pain medication. As you told us on
absolutely.
the show last week, they gave you a Percocet and Oxy prescript for Oxy to take home, and you didn't do any of it. You stuck with the Advil, bro. And not to sound condescending, like I said last week, man, but I'm fucking proud of you, man. It just goes to show, just because they prescribe that shit, you don't have to take it, right?
Absolutely. But everybody's got different levels of pain,
Yeah. Yep.
resilience, tolerance, whatever you want to call it.
That's right.
You
Everybody's
know,
got different levels of pain.
yeah,
I just say it that way because,
yeah.
as you know, and as I've shared many times openly on this podcast, which kind of gets me to the point of what the podcast is all about, in case we have anybody new coming aboard, is that I got hooked on opioid pain medication, similar to kind of sort of what happened with you. I mean, yours was a motorcycle, mine was a skating accident, but I broke my ankle and I got hooked on opioid pain medication. And
Did
so,
you have surgery on your ankle?
yeah, I
Okay.
was in surgery at Altamont Springs Hospital there on 436 near the
Okay.
mall the very next morning after I broke my ankle at Cimarron Skateway. And that's in the Orlando area for any of our viewers and listeners outside of that area, because I know we get a lot that aren't from that area. And the next morning I went into surgery. They put 3 pins in my ankle, and then, like 6 weeks later, I had surgery again where they took two of them out. There's
Wow.
still one in there, it's in there permanently. But yeah, man, as I've shared on this program many times, that is when my horrible relapse, with my addiction started when I was prescribed the opioid pain medication. I should have known better than to take that shit. It still, blows my mind that, I didn't know better, or decide not to do it, because I do have a long history with addiction. I guess I just justified it because it was prescribed by a doctor, by a surgeon. I was in pain. I did break my ankle. And I just feel so naive, because I never messed with opiates throughout my life. I was, a partier when I was younger. I've told my whole story on this podcast many times, y'all. And by the way, Dean, this, as you know, is episode 40. Congratulations to us, man. I didn't make a big deal out of it because I'm just so excited about our interview with YHB tonight, that's kind of what I was focusing on with all the promos for the show this week. But yeah, man, that's a big deal for us. 40 episodes into this show, man. And so, congratulations to us. But yeah, man, as I said, I've told my story on this podcast many, many times, and will more moving forward. The long version of what happened with me, because it got horrible, y'all. At the end of that long run I had, being hooked on the opioid pain medication. It lasted 9 years for me, y'all. And them last couple years, oh, it wasn't pretty. It got bad. As anybody who's been through that madness knows, it ain't fun. It works great when you first start taking it. Until it doesn't, as the saying goes. And I did become physically dependent on it. And I was addicted, and I'd do just about anything to get it there at the end. And then, if I didn't have it, I would get sick. I would get dope sick, as the saying goes. And thank God, I'm so happy to tell y'all I have been clean, 100% drug free, clean for over 2 years and 9 months, man. And so, anyway, with all that said, y'all, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast was to come out about my addiction. That's where we kind of came up with the name Dare Me to come out and fuck the stigma, as we say. Pardon my French, man. But hey, we put that content warning on the front end. We use heavy language on here sometime. But yeah, there's still that stigma with addiction, and even though I had a long history with, addiction and recovery before I started taking that shit, I was kind of played it close to the chest in my professional life, the business world that I worked in. And now, man, I'm like, obviously doing a podcast live here, way out of the closet on that, so to speak, and very open. And as the saying goes, recovering out loud. That's the thing now in addiction and recovery. Recover out loud in hopes that me telling my story might help someone else. And that's what we're doing with this podcast, y'all. So yeah, we always like to spend a little time on the front end just talking about what the podcast is all about. And you can see those hashtags up at the top of the screen. And we took the letters in that name Dare Me and put these hashtags together using those letters. And those are the topics that I love to talk about, and the topics that are most important to me in my life and my recovery from addiction and all that stuff. And so, we talk about drugs, addiction, recovery, which we've already talked about, on the podcast just a few minutes in. We like talking about enlightenment, trying to have peace in your life, because that's important when you're trying to stay clean so you don't get frustrated and just say, screw it, I'll just go get high. We talk a lot about music because it's been so crucially important to me in my life, music therapy, as they say. And of course, if you're a regular viewer, listener to the show, follow us on social media. I have a long history with music, working in the music industry as a disc jockey. I played music on the radio. I worked in clubs and bars and all that stuff. Now I try to produce music, sing and auto-tune with Pro Tools and Logic and all that stuff. So yeah, man, music is a big part of me staying clean. It's a passion I have. And then we talk about exercise and fitness. I'm in the best shape I've been in since I was a young man, as a result, a direct result of, staying and living clean. So anyway, that's what the show is all about, y'all. You always like to take a little time on the front end when we first go live on the air to give people a chance to jump on board. And I do see we have several people in the, viewing room, several viewers and listeners, I should say. We can see the little number up in the corner. So shout out to everybody watching and listening right now to the live edition. We always appreciate you. And shout out to anyone who comes across the recorded version of the show too, because of course we always post the recorded version after we go live. It's there on that Dare Me podcast YouTube channel. And if you do go there, man, we appreciate it if you just click subscribe. It really helps, with the program coming up in the algorithms. If there's somebody struggling with addiction who's looking for information, like I was, they're Googling how to get through opiate withdrawals, or they're on YouTube searching for, how to get through opiate withdrawals. The more subscribers we have, the more relevant YouTube feels our content is. And so if you do subscribe, it helps out. You could be helping somebody else. It's not self-serving. We appreciate it if you would do that. So anyhow, with all that said, that's kind of the summary of what our podcast is all about, man. Like I said, Dean, this is episode 40. Does it seem to you like we have done 40 episodes of this show? Because, man, it just doesn't seem like it to me, you know?
Yeah, we're a few months away there from doing a full year.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
time sure flew by, and
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, man, I gotta ask, Dean. I'm just asking, kill a little more time here while we get, because I see we got more. Boy, we got a busy chat room already, man. Look at that.
yeah, looks like somebody in the chats. Looks like somebody posting an ad, So we're just gonna try and ignore that. And
Okay, yeah, we'll
but
ignore that.
my
And
friend
we
the
also, I
pod,
see we got Phil in there. Hey,
yeah,
shout out Phil,
yeah.
podcast
Oh,
doctor. Shout out to him. Glad to have y'all in there, man.
looks like well, yeah, okay. So yeah, Phil asked a question. I'll
Yeah, I
put it
don't
up in
want to
front
go
of you.
there.
No? Okay.
It's depressing. No, but you know what, Phil?
That's fine.
Or no, that's a podcast doctor. Yeah, I will say, no, that's a relevant question. You can put
Yeah.
that back up, Dean. He asked, how much money did you lose over
Too
the
much.
time of your addiction? And I will tell you, I have thought on several. That's a good question. I was joking, but half
Well,
serious.
I'm going to jump in there because recently I saw an ad on TV about DUIs because we're at the holiday.
Yeah,
We're at the holiday, and
Yeah.
right off the bat it says it showed $10,000. Like you get a DUI, it's like flushing $10,000 down the drain.
Oh, yeah,
that's
easy.
what it's going to cost you.
Easy.
And it really kind of caught my. I'm like, I was half watching this commercial, and all of a sudden, what the hell? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
If that doesn't ring true, I can only imagine what opioids can. Alcohol is cheap in the grand scheme of things, but it's the getting arrested and going to the programs. You know this because we, at the place you used to work at, we were dealing with
with
DUI, the DUI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Florida, I do, and it's like this in most states around the country. The average cost of a first time, we'll say first time, because if you get a second or multiple offense, it's even more. But the average cost is around $8,000. When you start adding up all the stuff like attorney's fees, impoundment fees, car towing fees, classes, increased insurance, it just goes on and on. But anyway, the question we got there, how much money did I lose over the time of my addiction? Part of the reason I seriously, said that I don't want to talk about it because it's depressing. It's very depressing, but I'll talk about it. I will talk about it.
Great.
I'm not going to go into a deep dive with it tonight, but like I said,
maybe for another episode. We'll get into that
we
stuff.
will. And just an FYI, because I see we got lots of people tuning in tonight. We're going to be doing two, and we promoted this a couple of weeks ago, 2 marathon sessions of the podcast,
Ooh,
y'all.
Yeah.
Next
week.
Sunday, as you probably know, is Christmas Eve. The following Sunday is New Year's Eve. And so Dean and I talked about it, and we thought, maybe we'll just play, a pre-recorded version, one of our old episodes. We'll rerun them. And then we start talking, and, we were like, well, what are you doing Christmas Eve? What are you doing New Year's Eve? Well, I ain't doing nothing. I'm staying home. I thought, I might get together with my daughter and her husband, have something to eat earlier in the day or Christmas Day or whatever. And long story short, we decided, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do the shows, because sometimes the holidays can be a rough time for people. Everybody's supposed to be happy, joyous, and free and all that, but sometimes the holidays can be really rough for people. Maybe you're alone, and old memories or strained relations, or if you're struggling with addiction, maybe you're newly clean. That's a very tempting time to say, well, it's the holidays, and justify it. It can be hard to get through it sometimes. So we're going to be here live, and we're not putting any time clock on it, man. We're just going to go till we run out of gas. And certainly we'll go, on New Year's Eve at the very least till after midnight. We're going to ring in the new year live with y'all right here on the Dare Me podcast. And Dina, I hate to say it this way, but now that you broke your leg, this is even more convenient for you because you can't really go out nowhere on New Year's Eve. What are you gonna do? Go out in crutches in a wheelchair? So
Yeah, that damn wheelchair is going to be the
yeah.
pain of
Well,
me.
hey, bro, I appreciate you, being willing to do the show with us live on those nights. So, anyway, with all that said, I'm really dancing around our question of how much money.
Should I play some soft tap dance music? Because
All right.
yeah.
Well, here's the short answer: a lot. But I will talk about it in detail when we do those next two shows. Maybe I'll even
Ooh,
talk about them on both shows because
that
it is a
makes
great question. And I swear to God, y'all, I'm not making this up. I have thought about going into that in detail several times on this podcast. And here we are 40 episodes in, and I've never talked about it. And you know what? This is honest God truth. Part of the reason I haven't because it is fucking depressing. It is depressing.
Yeah.
It is one of the most depressing things that I think about when I think about the war stories of my addiction. Because when I was hooked on them pills, y'all, you got to remember it was a 9-year run. Now, it didn't start off horrible them first couple of years, but from then on, and especially them last couple of years, when I think about the money that I burned through, it's truly depressing, y'all. And those who follow me regularly, I'm retired now from my full-time career. And I had a couple of careers. I worked for Metro Traffic Control in Central Florida for 20 years, and I also worked for a company called the United Safety Council for 25. And like most people that work in a career that long, my best earning years were those last 5 to 10 years there. And that's when I was addicted, man, on the opioid pain medication. And, as we've talked about in great detail on this podcast, and will more going forward, I wasn't only getting them from the doctors. You know what I mean? I had my script, my monthly script, but Jesus Christ, at the end there, man, I'd burn through that in a fucking week. So, yeah, man. You start getting them from other people, and then you meet other people who get them but don't use them, and they flip them, and then somebody getting them off the street, then you're getting them off the street, and all that other shit. Like I said, man, it's gonna be a very deep dive conversation because I do have some war stories that I've told on here before, and I'll tell again. But yeah, man, great question from the podcast doctor. And when we do those long shows coming up on Christmas and New Year's, man, that's something I thought we'd do is invite people to call in and maybe share some of their war stories with us because, that's kind of looked down on, if you will, at 12-step meetings. People like it when you talk more about recovery than the sickness, talk about the solution rather than the problem. We all got fucking war stories. We all know how to get high. We all know, it's kind of the philosophy. People like hearing stuff more inspiring, but I'll also say I'm a believer that hearing them fucking war stories can be a motivation to get and stay clean too, because it's a reminder. Oh my God, I don't want to fucking go back to that shit. So anyway, yeah, man, long answer to a short question. Something that came to mind, man, is I'll just give you an example. If you remember Steven Tyler, the lead singer from Aerosmith, the rocker, he's quoted, there's a shit ton of videos out there where he says easily he spent $1 million on cocaine. He used to say, man, they bought up half of Bolivia, and, I didn't reach the level of $1 million. It's a lot though, y'all. It's a lot. And I will tell you the figure. I will. So there's a little teaser, a little carrot. If you want to know what your old pal Glenn Victor
tune in next week.
He spended, tune in next week and the following week too. We'll talk about it, man. But that's a great question. So anyway, y'all, I am like really excited about our show tonight and that interview with YHB. And yeah, we're talking a lot about drugs and addiction and recovery, y'all. And we do a little bit of a deep dive conversation with him. And that's one of the topics we talk about is, as you'll see in the interview, man, we're going to talk about mental health and, counseling, therapists, things to that nature. And we also talk about drug use in the music industry. So we're going going to do that in just a second, y'all. But I'm looking over here because we're going to do, and I promoted this in some of the promos for the show. YHB, shout out, bro. If you're watching, you see this, man. Thank you so much for not just for doing the interview, but he also gave us an exclusive on not one, but 2 songs that he's about to release. And you're going to hear them here tonight on the Dare Me podcast for the very first time. And we're not playing the whole songs, but we're going to give you a tease. We've got about minute-long clips of these that we're going to play. And those are coming up kind of in the last part of the interview. Now, this interview that we recorded, which we're going to play in a second here, y'all, is about an hour and 10 minutes long. So the music clips are coming up, like I said, kind of, near the end of the interview. So I didn't want to make you wait that long if you're new to YHB's music to hear some of his stuff. So I told Dean, I said, oh my God, man, we got to play, a few videos of some of his stuff before we go ahead and play the interview. So let me go ahead and do that if I can find it. This is one that I just love from him. That's called Break My Heart. So, yeah, there's a picture. Thanks for bringing that up, Dean. That's that boy YHB. And there we are in the studio. And I was in Orlando last Monday. We got a few pictures. And there's Dean in the middle at the controls and all. So, yeah, man, let's go ahead and play this video. And then we'll talk about it real quick. Here we go.
Baby, take my heart and just break it, break it. Would you take care of me if I'm faded, faded? Would you hold on to me till we make it, make it? Even when I'm gone, I'm on her playlist, playlist. Baby, take my heart and just break it, break it. Would you take care of me if I'm faded, faded? Would you hold on to me till we make it, make it? Even when I'm gone, I'm on her playlist, playlist.
Oh my God, man. It is fucking awesome, bro. That's a tune called Would You by that boy YHB. I told y'all he was the shit, man. I was telling him on the phone. We talked earlier, man. It's like clearly, and you'll hear it more as we listen to more of his stuff. You can tell there's an influence there from like Lil Peep, which I know he loves Peep, but I told him today too that some of his stuff reminds me of like Billy Joe Armstrong, lead singer for Green Day, some of the MGK stuff, you can tell, man, that, he's definitely been influenced by them guys. So anyway, man, let's take a listen to this one. This is a short clip of a tune he did called Nervosa. Check it out.
My body is eating myself alive. I might starve myself to sleep tonight. Why the fuck do my demons creep up through the night? I lay there dead and paralyzed. My body is eating myself alive. I might starve myself to sleep tonight. Why the fuck do my demons creep up through the night? I lay there dead and paralyzed.
I love it, man. Paralyzed. Dude's got a pen game too, man. Great lyrics, Okay, we're going to do one more clip, y'all, and then we're going to jump into our interview with YHB. I just thought we'd do this for y'all to give you a little taste. This is one called Lost. Check this out.
Lost without my love, and I'm tired of away. This feeling's getting lonely. Come find me, come save me. I'm stuck in my abyss. I'm stuck in my abyss. I'm feeling lonely, lost inside my own head. This feeling's getting lonely, heartbroken, so empty.
All right, y'all. Yeah, man, that is like an awesome tune, bro. So anyway, I just want to let y'all know real quick, and you'll hear more about this in the interview before we start. YHB is 23 years old, but he ain't no, new person to music. He's been doing music for a while. So some of those clips I just showed y'all, these go back like 3-4 years ago, so he's been in the game for a little bit, man. And you know how it is. The more you do something, the better you get at it, the more you're in your own element. And man, he is up and coming. And man, I just love bumping his shit. I got that shit on loop when I'm in the gym, driving down the road in the car and the whole thing. So anyway, he's such a great guy, y'all, as you're going to see in the interview we're about to play. So we hope you enjoy this. This was conducted just last Monday in Orlando, Florida at the PFX Media Dare Me podcast studio there with Dean Baker. Goes about an hour and 10, and then we'll be back with you live to talk about some of the opioid crisis in the news. If you follow that, you know that they released the results of the autopsy on actor Matthew Perry. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We got some great shout outs to some of our friends celebrating clean time anniversaries up in Detroit City. And we got some fun stuff we'll do at the end of the show. So that's all coming up on the other side of our interview. Dean, are you ready, bro? We'll go ahead and play that. And
I'm going to mute my mic during the playing of this because our mics will still be live. So
right on. Okay. Well, hey, bro, we'll talk to you in a little over an hour. Hope y'all enjoy this. Check it out. YHB. We got that boy YHB on the Dare Me podcast today. Hey, man, thank you so much for being on with us. So glad to have you here, man.
Glad to be here.
I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and now here I am in Orlando, and it worked out that we got you live here in the PFX Media studio. And got to interview you in person, man. This is awesome.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, you know what? It's so bizarre that, you and I did not know this when we decided to do this interview today, but coincidentally, it is 1 year ago to the day that we met at the Future of Artists Summit. And look at this slide here, bro. I posted this on social media 1 year ago today. That's what's up. Let's go. And we were at that Caskey Future of Artists Summit, man. And I posted this. It was right here in Orlando. And man, what a great event that was. Wouldn't you agree?
That was honestly one of the best events I've probably ever been to, and it wasn't even a festival or like there was no music being created ever.
I know.
And it was so much fun.
That's
I learned
a
a lot.
great point, man, because, when we went to this thing, none of us were real sure what to expect. And yeah, man, you would have thought there'd be some music, some rapping going on, something. No, it was all about leveling up and motivation and
Making
things to that
yourself better.
nature. Yeah, here, I got to just show another picture. Here we are at the event, man. And here's that boy, Neela Shebang, his stage name, Neela, hung out with us, Bang. And yeah, man, we had so much fun there. And then, of course, I got to show a picture of us with that boy, Caskey. There he is. We were hanging outside. It was such a cool event. And then I dug this picture we took, man. Here we are at the entrance doors to the event and stuff. And so anyway, bro, what a coincidence that 1 year ago to the day we were at the summit, and now here we are doing a podcast.
I wouldn't even have known unless Shebang or you told me. I had no idea what the date was, and I was like, "Wait, it is December." Yeah,
me
it's
neither.
crazy.
The only way I knew is it came up in my social media as a memory, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like bizarre." Here I'm doing an interview with YHB today. And it was a year ago that we met at the summit. So anyway, I couldn't resist at least talking about that for a moment,
Gotta mention
man.
it.
And so, I want to ask you this, man, because I remember when we met at the summit last year, you were living the life of the proverbial starving artist, if you will.
Still
you
hungry
hear about that a lot. Yeah, man. And you had shared with me, you were doing what you got to do to pay the bills, working at Starbucks out in the Disney area and all that. And, we talked a little bit about it, that summit was so motivational, even for me, man. You know, I had already talked about and was planning to do this podcast. Going to that summit, though, made me level up, like they said, and motivated me to get it started a little bit quicker. There was something that was said at that summit. That boy Anonymous said, you know, perfectionism is a form of procrastination. Yeah. And I found that that's what was happening with me with this podcast. I was trying to get all the little pieces in place and make sure everything was just perfect before we started it. And you know what? It just kept getting delayed because there's always some shit in the game. There's always something.
Yeah, something
you know?
always got to come up.
So finally, I just said, you know what, fuck it, man. We're just starting this thing, and we're going to have problems, and there's going to be shit, you know, and we'll just flush it out, and we'll get better as we go. And you learn from your mistakes. And that's certainly what's happened with this podcast. I will tell you, bro, I go back and look at some of them early episodes. Ooh, a little cringy here.
It's frightening.
But you know, we've made adjustments as we've gone with it, and I think it's getting better as we go. But so anyway, the reason I go into that is because I know you don't work at Starbucks anymore.
No.
And now you're working full time, bro, at a recording studio as an engineer. You're recording music, and so you know. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Did that summit help motivate you to take your shit to the next level?
Yeah, it definitely gave me the kick in the ass I needed.
Right.
And just hearing it from Caskey and Anonymous, and even like some of the other guys like Angel Hill that were there, and Hector Sounds.
Man.
I know they didn't talk too much. Well, Hector did, but you know. They all had
Hector Sounds, by the way. I don't mean to interrupt you, bro,
good.
but Hector Sounds, Grammy-nominated recording artist, you know, and producer, I should say, worked for Post Malone. He was our VIP dinner speaker, man. He was such a nice guy, too.
And all of them had such similar just hard work and keep pushing stories that, you know, it leaves you only with one thing left to do, and that's just want to grow and wanting to get better every day. Wow. And, you know, I've taken my 3 to 4 steps forward, but I also got pushed back 10 or 12. And then I walk another 6.
Sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what, man? We should talk about this a little bit. And first of all, I should say, y'all, that, you know, I know Brendan's like whole family, man. I know your grandparents. I know your Uncle John. I know your mom. I know your aunt, you know. And we have this Orlando connection because, you know, I lived here for 30 years. You're living here now.
Yeah.
But we also have this connection going back to Detroit City in Michigan, where, you know, we both grew up. Yeah. I mean, man, and Detroit will always be home, I'm sure, for me. I'm sure it's the same for you.
It is.
You know, but you're out here in Orlando because you attended Full Sail University, which is like this, you know, phenomenal place to go to school. So many Grammy award-winning people have come out of there, mostly producers and stuff, but artists too. And so, man, you know, that's what I'm saying, bro, is like you come out of Full Sail, and it just kills me sometimes, the whole starving artist thing of, you know, God, man, so many talented people working at fucking Starbucks. And no disrespect to Starbucks. Hey, man, everybody got to get paid, make a living, do what you got to do. It's just, I'm so happy, man. I mean this sincerely, to know that you're working in a recording studio now, cultivating your talents as a producer, as an artist, an engineer and all, instead of making coffee for people, you know? So
it's actually crazy. I didn't even think about this earlier, but I actually texted Caskey and Anonymous after I got the job at the recording studio. And because it wasn't even like an internship. It wasn't like I wasn't going to fetch coffee for artists or food for artists, sorry. But they started training me, and then as soon as the other 2 head engineers left, it was my turn for the taking. But I texted Caskey and Anonymous, and I just said, like, I don't know if I could have done this before the summit.
Wow.
And, like, I just want to say thank you for, you know, being there and
How
just
cool is
giving
that?
us all of the knowledge we needed to really push ourselves to be great, you know?
Bro, and you know what? We should probably show this. You know, this is 212 production record. This is the studio you're working at, right?
Yeah, shout out 212. I love 212. They're my new home.
Shout out 212. And didn't you tell me, I didn't know this, but apparently, I guess there's some kind of Caskey connection. He recorded there when he was a young guy.
The owners, like when they first started the studio, like way back in the day, like I don't even know if Caskey
making Caskey sound old back in the day. Respect, bro.
I don't even know if he was signed when they were working together, but I believe the studio was 212 Recording, and I think it was in Maitland. I walk by his plaques in the hallways every day, so so they definitely worked with him at some point. I haven't yet to work. I've yet to work with him, but I would love to one day. So
but oh man, that is so cool. What a great story, man. I am so glad to hear that. You know,
definitely wake up happier every day.
Well, you know what? If I may, and you don't mind if I call you Brendan, right? Your stage name is YHB, which stands for what, by the way?
The Young and the Heartbroken.
I know it. I've said it before because I've given you shout outs on this podcast before, bro. And I jokingly say, man, you need to come up with a better stage name. Something more optimistic because Young and Heartbroken. But I get it, man. It's unique. I like it.
One day I'll change it. I have thought about changing it. But also I kind of just want to get established beforehand. I just want to be more true to myself. And I do think it is true to me. But at the same time, it's not necessarily all I have.
But you know what, man? And, when I listen to your music, I get it. There's definitely a style with your music, which, by the way, folks, we're going to do a little deep dive into a few of his songs here and play some clips in a little bit. So that's coming up, man. But I love that we're talking about it a little bit first. So, yeah, man, I'm just joking. I say YHB, so... if I may, man, I just want to ask because, we're talking about like the whole Future of Artists Summit and how they motivated everybody in the Caskey connection and all that. You're a young artist, and that's one of the things that I talk about that thing all the fuck time on this podcast, man, because I just thought it was such an awesome event that...
And it was, because no one's really ever done anything like that.
That's exactly where I was just going to go with that. That's exactly what I was just going to say, bro, is I just have so much respect for them guys that and when I say them guys, I'm talking about Caskey and Anonymous and others that were there too. Tasty was there. You mentioned Angel Hill. Other guys, Victor Sounds, they were all there and genuinely and sincerely trying to help young artists like yourself. They even helped an OG like me, because I talked to Anonymous on the phone a couple times before the event, because I was a little sus at first, like, okay, is this just a money grab, these guys trying to get people? But as you and I both know, that wasn't it at all. It was legit, man. It was legit.
It was like I said earlier, there's really no words to describe it. Like it was so out of the ordinary and just so something that hasn't been done before. And like them wanting to be so generous and to like being so open and telling all these stories. I know I can't remember everyone's name that spoke at that summit, but I know the one that really like changed my mentality and like changed just like how I went about everything was definitely Lucas Mack.
Oh man,
that was insane. He was that was crazy.
Bro. I mean, there were people in tears. After
I was
we
almost
did like a meditation with him.
Wild.
It was intense.
Yeah,
man.
it was crazy. I can't even explain.
Well, and
how
then
crazy
Bezos,
that was.
he was so motivational, man.
He was great too. That breathing technique. I don't know how to properly say it, so I don't want to butcher it. But it's that breath work that he preaches is so intense.
And it's a big part.
It's such a mind-opening experience.
Meditation and all that, man. Yeah, but what you said is true, bro. They have created this lane that I have said before, I wish some of the artists at their level had done when I was your age. It might have changed my whole trajectory in life. And I started to say this earlier. I was talking to Mass on the phone before the event, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, I'm not at the level of you guys or any of these young artists that are going to be coming to this thing. I'm just starting off working in, auto-tune, with Logic and Pro Tools and, just having fun with it, as an older guy, learning this, And I did tell him a little bit about the podcast, you know, that I was planning because I hadn't started it yet, you know, as we mentioned. And I asked him, do you think I'll learn some things about, like, you know, how to properly market it in social media and all that stuff? And without skipping a beat, he said, oh, God, yeah, man, we're going to be talking about all that kind of stuff. And so I was still a little leery going into it. But man, was I, as you know, just so impressed with everything they did. And like I mentioned already in our interview today, it did motivate me to say, you know what, Glenn, you need to either shit or get off the fucking pot, as the saying goes, to get this podcast started. And like I said, hey, man, we've had our bumps along the way, but we're flushing it out still and learning by our mistakes as we go. And man, that saying, you know, it has just stuck with me that perfectionism is a form of procrastination. And one thing I took away from there that I loved, bro, that they taught me is, you know, be vulnerable. Well, what am I so worried about what other people think? Fuck what other people think. You know, there's that old saying, man, what other people think of me is none of my fucking business. You know, I just got to do what I got to do. Do you, is that saying, and be vulnerable. And you know what? And play to your crowd, because not everyone is going to like your shit. You know, just put it out there and do you and do what you have a passion for, and the rest will fall into place. Would you agree?
I would 100% agree, actually. Like, my dad just called me like last week, 2 weeks ago, after I dropped a new song. It's called Lonely. But he called me and was like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, he's just dropped a really sad song. Like, I want to make sure you're all good, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm cool, man. I'm chilling. I was like, really, I just needed to get that out. I was like, that I just was feeling upset. I don't really know what was upsetting me. And I heard a beat and I just kind of let out whatever emotions I was feeling. And then, you know, then he started asking the questions about, like, that can be kind of misleading. Like, I got worried, blah, blah, blah. And I said, like, I know you're not saying anything about my song, more so the content of it, but someone else needs to hear that. Because that will change someone else's life. And that's all I really care about, like, at the end of the day.
Wow, bro.
So,
man, you know, I just love that you told me that story. You told our listeners, our viewers, that story, because you know what? As you know, man, I know you check in with our podcast from time to time. I talk a lot about the healing power of music. What a huge change it's made in my life, especially when it comes to, like, recovering from addiction and shit. The whole music therapy thing and all that. And we talk a lot on this show about mental health. Mental health matters, things to that nature.
It really does.
And the healing power of music, you know, it's been transformative. And you know what's cool, man, is I hear from so many people who will send me DMs or messages or what have you after we talk about that on the podcast. And, you know, we've had, as I think you know, we've had several artists that were at the summit on the show.
I saw
Shout out Dustin Warbear. He created our logo, man, for the show. You
I didn't actually know that. That's actually pretty sick.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to him too much.
We've had, you know,
I know who
Wild.
Soldani is, though. Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
There was one, didn't you have one or two more on here, too?
Yeah, oh, yeah, we have.
I know,
man,
Dustin and Soldani, though. I do remember their shows.
Yeah. Well, and all the more reason, like I said, man, it's been too long that we finally got you on. But like I said, I'm just so happy this worked out, bro, where we got you here in person while I'm visiting Orlando. And, you know, I guess we should probably say, man, that, you know, you were talking so much about the summit, you know. I mean, the interview's all about you, bro, but, you know, we couldn't resist talking about the summit because of the coincidence that it was 1 year ago today that we went. But they have announced that they're going to do the second one coming up in June. And so part of the reason I brought that up is because that will probably be the next time I come back to Orlando. I mean, I'm definitely coming back for that. I just don't know if I'll be here again before that, you know. So they haven't even announced the official dates and all, I don't think yet, other than that they said it's in June.
I think I saw Caskey post that it was like coming next summer, but that was like
I heard Mass say it's going to be in June.
Like
I don't think they did the official date yet. But anyways, I will say, man, if you're a young artist and you're up and coming, I just can't recommend going to this thing enough. You know what? I'm going to put you on the spot, bro, because I remember talking to you.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, at the end of the event, and I said to you, "Wow, Brendan, what did you think, man?"
Because I really didn't want to go. You had to convince me.
Yeah.
You had to convince me to go. I remember.
There was something that you said that made me feel so good at the end of it. I said, "Well, so Brendan, what'd you think, man? Did you dig the event? Do you remember what you said when
I said
you
it
answered
was.
me?"
Now you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure I said it was one of the most life-changing experiences I've had.
That's it. You said, bro, it was life-changing. That's what you said to me. That's pretty powerful, y'all, okay?
Yeah.
So, again, if there's any young artists on the fence thinking, I don't know if I want to go, man, do I really want to invest that much money? And I use the word invest because it ain't spending that money. It's investing it, you know, in your future, man, in your passion, you know? And so hey, man, on this podcast, if you're a regular viewer, listener to this podcast, you know, I don't bring no bullshit here, man. You know, this is a real event that I just can't recommend enough to people. So anyway, with all that said, man, let's go back to this topic that you touched on a little bit, and I really appreciate you talking about it. And I mentioned, you know, being vulnerable in your music and things a little bit. And so you address topics in a lot of your lyrics having to do with mental health. Talk to us a little bit about that.
A lot of it is depression and a lot of it is anxiety related.
Yeah.
But until recently, I never thought therapy was an option for me. Like I tried it a couple times and it was horrible. Like it was just, I didn't help. Nothing helped. It was I was just constantly sad all the time. And to be honest, I really don't know why. Like I would just wake up one day and just I would just be more sad than the last day. And you know, that's really all I can really how I can really explain it to people when they ask about like how I'm feeling. It's like I was more sad today than I was yesterday, but you know, we're still here. Yep. But really it's just kind of me and trying to let out those inner feelings, because if I don't, they're just going to consistently go back and forth in my head with each other.
Right.
And I reference it a lot, and I'm trying not to anymore, but I say these demons all the time, and I talk about the demons and everything, and that's just the voice in my head all the time, like the one that just doesn't shut up, the one that doesn't stop talking. Right. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to get rid of or run away from when I talk about it in my songs, is that voice that for just some reason won't let you hear the good. Yeah. Because I just need it. I need to get, if I don't push that out of my head, then there won't be any room for the good to come in.
Wow, man, that is so powerful, bro. And I appreciate you being so vulnerable, like we said, and honest and open, because like what you said, bro, and we have that in the open to our show, you know, what we're doing with this podcast, if it helps even one person, then it's all worth it. Because, you know, I say it on here a lot. Fuck it, I'm going to say it again right now, bro. You know, I feel very self-conscious sometimes about coming out about my addiction and being so open and honest and naked, I feel sometimes on this podcast, talking about what I went through. And there's days where I'll second guess myself after the show and I'll go, oh my God, what have I done? You know, I'm fucking put myself like Dean, you know, our producer, when we first started, when I talked to him about the show, he's like, well, Glenn, we can do this, but once you ring that bell, bro, there ain't no unringing that bell, you know. But the point I'm making is kind of what you were alluding to, bro. No regrets, man. No fucking regrets, because like you said, and we know just based on the feedback we've got that we are making a difference, man. We've had people reach out to us telling us, wow, man, thank you so much for sharing the information. That was real helpful to me. And, oh, man, I'm so glad I got to hear, you know, people talking, stuff like that. So, yeah, man, when you put music out like that and you're bearing your soul, it does help people, yours truly included, you know? Yeah. I love when people get vulnerable in their songs and have deep lyrics like that, man, you know? So it's great.
And it's like, I always have this thought in my head about like when the time finally comes to me for me to put together like my first studio project. Yeah. And this idea has never left my head since the summit. Like the summit is what gave me this idea. Right. And I want my first studio album when that time comes. It's not right now because I want to put the work and the effort into it.
Yep. But you're working on it. We got some songs. We're going to play some
we're
music in a minute
it.
here, y'all.
We're working on it. But I want it to be called Unapologetically Me because at the end of the day, I just don't want to. I love
that.
I like it a lot.
I might have to use that, man. I was stealing from you. But, man, I love that because, you know, that was something that was kind of instilled in me, too, is be the authentic Glenn. You know, there ain't no bullshit here, man. You know, I will say on this podcast, you know, because we do all play these roles in life, you know. You know, when you're, you know, at work, you put that work hat on, you know, when you're, you know, different thing. But, you know, it's like I said, man, I feel bare naked on this podcast sometimes because I've chosen to come out and be honest and open about my addiction, man. And I think that shows, man. And it certainly 100%. Shows in your music for me.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. It definitely does.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. I'm going to take you in a little bit of a different direction now, and I appreciate you talking about the whole mental health thing. And by the way, before we do move on, I wanted to comment on something you said, the whole therapy thing, because I've been to my share of therapists and counselors, and I could totally tune into what you were saying, man, that for me, you know, I found that I had to do a little shopping, as they say. Okay, you know, I used to doctor shop when I was trying to get pills, you know what I mean? And so somebody told me, Glenn, go shopping for your counselor, for your therapist. Don't settle on just the first one, or don't throw in the towel on it just because you couldn't relate to the first therapist. Because, you know, with a lot of people, man, you have insurance companies, whatever the fuck, you know, and they refer you, okay, here's a list of approved ones you can go to, and you go meet with somebody, and it's like, damn, I don't even feel comfortable talking to this person, man. I
just
can't
like
relate.
cardboard.
Or whatever. It's like, fuck all that counseling shit. So what I'm saying is, for anybody who may be struggling with mental health and considering counseling, and not to contradict you, that's not what I'm doing at all.
I do think counseling works for people. I really do. I just don't think I even want to try it again, and I'm going to try it again. Something I've been talking to my family about. I do want to try it again. But I know so many people that love their counselors, their therapists, all of that. So
you know what?
I do think it is a good thing. I just personally haven't yet found that person. I haven't found that one shop yet. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, you know, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, bro, I appreciate you being so honest and open and vulnerable talking about it, because there's this fucking stigma out there attached, first of all, to like addiction, coming out about addiction, but also about mental health. And people not wanting to, oh God, I don't want people to know, I think I'm crazy or whatever. That's kind of for me
or like
how
you're
I
soft.
felt.
Like,
like I'm soft. Like, me and Shebang, we talk about that a lot, man. That boy Shebang, like, hey man, just because I'm being vulnerable, don't think I'm fucking soft, man. I can turn ghetto on a motherfucker real quick. You know, I try to keep that ghetto Glenn at bay because that guy will get me in trouble, you know. But the point I'm making is I first want to say that, man, if somebody is struggling with mental health, you're considering counseling, you meet with one or two, hey, don't throw in the towel on it just because you didn't relate to the first. Keep shopping, man. You'll find somebody you can relate to. And then I wanted to mention this, like about that whole stigma thing of, oh, God, you seen a counselor? Oh, he's a therapist. Well, if that fucks with you, if those names bother you, think of it as a mentor, which is really what it is. And this isn't something I came up with. This is something the way somebody explained it to me, because I felt that way, like, oh God, I don't want nobody to know I'm in counseling, you know, but fuck that. I don't care, man. Good orderly direction, man. You know, most successful people have a mentor that helps, you know, like I know, for example, you're talking about, you know, Anonymous, man. He's doing some life coaching now. We had that girl, Melissa Dawn, on our podcast not long ago. She's doing life coaching for the girls, you know. There's nothing wrong. Matter of fact, there's everything right with having a good mentor in your life. Call whatever the fuck you want, counselor, therapist, mentor, whatever. But man, we all can use good guidance and motivation in our life. Wouldn't you agree?
No, of course. And I usually call it a brain shower. You know,
I like that. Oh, that's a new term for me, brain shower.
I don't remember who. Someone told me it. I feel like I just stole that from someone. I
love it.
If you're hearing this, I'm sorry, but I don't remember who said it, but brain shower.
Well, I'm gonna remember that. So, okay, man, I told you I wanted to take it in a little bit of a different direction. I appreciate you talking with us about that. I also want to talk a little bit about drugs because, you know, let's face it, man, this podcast, yeah, we talk about music, we talk about fitness, we talk about enlightenment, all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, you boil it down to the least common denominator with this podcast, man. We're talking about, you know, addiction and recovery because, like I've said, man, I came out to be open about how I got hooked on them fucking opiates, man. And, you know, it was horrible, Brent. It was the worst thing I ever been through in my life, getting off of them, going through the withdrawals and shit. And so, you know my background, man, in music. I worked in clubs and bars as a DJ for half my fucking life and, you know, worked with guys, you know, musicians and stuff. And it's just everywhere in the music industry and stuff. So how do you manage to maneuver your way around that in the music business? Because I ain't, you know, I'm just saying, man, I might have been born tonight, but not last night. And I know that shit's everywhere. How do you get around all that?
You know, also I work in a studio. So I work with a lot of people who, you know, show up drunk or high, which, you know, by all means, you do you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No judgment. Be careful. Don't fucking die. Fentanyl.
Yeah, that one's crazy. Yeah. That one's insane. It's everywhere. Scary. It's literally everywhere. And it's like, that is crazy. I hate that word. Yep. It's probably the scariest word of the year.
Man. It's crazy, you know. But so if I'm hearing you correctly, it's still everywhere.
It's still everywhere, but you got to be strong. Willpower. You know, I get offered, and this is just alcohol, you know, and you know, alcohol is still bad, and I don't like
this,
drinking.
Bro. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I gotta say, you made a statement. This is just alcohol. You know what? Alcohol is one of the worst fucking drugs out there. Alcohol is a drug. It's just that, and I say it too sometimes, bro. It's just alcohol because it's so socially acceptable.
It is, and that's the issue. And that's the issue is because it's so normalized, and it shouldn't be.
You know what? Joe Rogan on his podcast, because I watch Rogan, I like him. You know, he said on his once not long ago, you know what, man? When it comes to drugs and shit, it's like alcohol gets a free pass.
It does.
You know, when really that's worse. You know, I'm paraphrasing what he said. That's worse than fucking people smoking weed or some of the other stuff out there. It's like alcohol because it's socially acceptable and legal. It gets a free pass, but it destroys more people's lives than
it does. And alcohol poisoning, alcohol addiction, like all of that kind of stuff. Like I am one of those people that does think alcohol is far more dangerous to your body than something like weed or anything like that. Not saying that that is a good thing to do or anything like that. But you have to have that willpower because it's always going to be around you. It's always. I get asked if I want to take a shot every hour on the hour by a client, and I tell them no disrespect. I don't drink.
Good for you, bro.
I do. You know, every now and then, special occasion, you know, raise a glass of champagne, wine, beer, whatever it may be. But I only keep it for a special occasion.
I'm glad to hear that because, you know, I say this a lot. I've said it on this podcast many times. Of all the drugs, you know, alcohol is fucking sloppy, man. What a sloppy drug. You know, the more you start drinking, now, you know, you're slurring your words. Your eyes are all bloodshot. Your breath stinks. You know what I mean?
And you feel like you have less control.
You can't walk straight. You're wobbling. You can't fucking drive. You know, people are out DUI, car crashes, killing people. That fucking drug is sloppy, man, you know, and it's like I'm glad to hear, bro, that you keep that one in check.
I really do, and it's because there was a summer when I was right out of high school. It was 2017, 2017 going into 2018, where I just didn't put a beer down.
Good. Yeah, I know.
I was partying every single night all summer, and I feel as though it is really easy for me to get addicted to something.
You got that addictive personality.
Yeah, I have that addictive personality, and I could just see how I wasn't.
Man, I'm so glad to hear you put that in check because, you know, what happened with me, same thing at that age, you know, Brendan, man, I got carried away and I believe, you know, this is just me. You know, I'm no scientist or medical expert or anything. I think that for most people, you party, but if you keep going till the wheels fall off, like guys like me, you know, then there's no turning back. Once you cross that line, there's no turning back. Either you stay loaded every day, all day, every day, at whatever level it might be, or none at all. Yeah. And that's where I'm at in my life now, man. I live totally clean and sober because if I put that shit in my body, then all bets are off, and there's no telling when it'll end, you know. So I'm glad you were able to put it in check, bro, before it became that kind of a problem, you know?
Yeah, because, like, you know, even now, I still smoke the vape, like, nicotine.
Sure,
and, like, even just that alone,
Yeah.
like, I can't get off that. And I tried last year. Remember?
Yeah,
remember when
that's
I
right.
remember
I
I was
remember now.
I
Yeah,
tried to
I forgot about that.
last year I tried to quit and I still haven't been able to. And
Oh, that was a tough one for me to kick, too.
Yeah.
Because I used to smoke cigarettes. I put them down and switched to vape and
that
thinking, well, that ain't going to be as
fruity
bad.
flavor.
That was hard to
Yeah.
quit, too, yeah.
And, you know, I want to. Like, I am determined to put it down. I just need to.
Oh, you can do it.
I know, yeah. I know
I
I
can
can
do it,
do it.
you can do it.
Yeah, and I did for a while. I did. Other than Shebang's vape that I was hitting. Other
you
than
a bad influence, bro. No,
hey, it helped. But other than that, like, I really wasn't like, and you know, that was 2 days, and I only saw him for a couple hours.
Well,
in that
bro,
day.
I got to tell you a little funny story, you know, because I can relate, man. I can totally relate. So when I first met Shebang, man, I was vaping, and we were riding together in the car and shit, and I was vaping these vapes, and like you said, man, there's all these different flavors, you know, and so I had like 3 different flavors. I had like a grape, a strawberry, a orange, whatever the fuck. I'm driving. I got one in one hand, one in another while I'm driving. I'm hitting this one. I'm hitting that one. I'm changing out the flavor. And he looks at me and goes, God damn, bro, you a motherfucking addict, you know? And I'm like, I know, you know? And so,
it just tastes so good.
Yeah, no, they were tough to put down, man.
They're
will
hard.
say, you know, that's one of them things, like, I don't miss them fucking pills, man. I don't miss being hungover and all that shit from drinking. I do miss vaping sometimes. I'm just being honest, y'all. You know, I'm off of them now, and I have been for a long time. Coming up in 2 years, but sometimes I miss it, man. You know, I do. You know,
I know I'm not gonna do it my entire life, and I know that as a fact.
Oh, it affects your breathing. That's
It
why I
does.
had to put them down at the end of the day, y'all. I got a cough from it. It was making me short of breath, and you know, I like working out now. I go to the gym and shit, and it
You get
almost
your high
seems
from working out.
self-defeating. Like, fuck, I'm working out so hard, and here I am fucking vaping. What the fuck? You know?
There was a few times where I was working out, like, within the last couple of years where, like, I wasn't very consistent with it, and I was trying to get back in the gym, but I could feel the smoke lungs.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hey, man, let me ask you this, okay? Because, you know, we're talking about using, getting high, all that other stuff, you know. And, you know, we did a podcast a while back, and we had them boys from Rare Hearted on. Shout out Rare Hearted, Shoe, and all them guys, Keon, all them guys. And they were so cool, just like you're being right now, man, being honest and open about getting high in the music industry. And so I asked him, I said, man, you hear a lot from different artists like, well, man, when I get high, it opens up my creativity and makes me more creative. And then, you know, they were talking, there was like one of the guys said, well, you know what, man, I've made music while I was smoking weed and getting high, and then I've made music while I was totally clean. And then, for example, Shu said, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, he was like, yeah, man, I don't like making music if I'm high. I just don't feel like I'm in my real zone or whatever, however he said it. You know, you get the idea. Yeah. So we had a conversation about it. So I'm going to ask you the same thing, man. You know, if you be open and honest with us about it, you know, what's your feelings on that? Do you think people, you know, are more creative when they're, you know, under the influence, or just being clean, or both, or what? What's your thoughts
When
on
I
that?
was in school, I learned, like, they taught us, and, you know, they weren't saying to go do it, but they taught us that, you know, the Beatles made everything on acid.
Tripping
on
acid.
They made everything they did because it,
I
you know,
heard
just
that.
sounded
and
cool.
smoking weed, Paul McCartney, man, he was one of the biggest potheads around, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, it's not an argument. It's not an argument, you know, it's a little.
Not a debate.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a nice little,
conversation.
With some of my clients all the time, and it's a nice little discussion, but I personally don't record high or anything.
Okay. All right.
You know, sometimes, you know, if I'm really feeling a song, I have my little pen. I just take a couple rips, and, you know, that's that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I really do like to record sober. And I don't think I can't even remember the last time, to be honest, that I've really gotten high before recording. but I personally don't love it. I feel like.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think you're saying that you feel like you do your best work when you're clean,
When I'm clean.
and not under the influence, man. And,
That's personally though, because I also know artists that get super fucked up by themselves in their bedroom and record 7 songs that are absolutely amazing. And I'm like, I tried it one time to get drunk and record, and it was horrible. Like I had a mission. And that was with me and my producer to see what it would sound like, because our other friend was cranking out 7 to 8 banging songs in 3 hours, all super fucked up. And I was like, I'm gonna try it. Couldn't even get a verse.
Yeah, well, you know what? I appreciate you being honest and open, sharing that with us, bro. And, I will say, I get it, there's that old saying, a drug is a drug is a drug. I'll also say, I think there's a difference with recording, having smoked some weed or dropped some acid, as opposed to drinking. Because like I said, to me, man, alcohol, that's a fucking sloppy drug. You start drinking, man, you're going to make some sloppy ass music where if you're tripping on acid, God only knows what you might come up with, But at the end of the day, here's where I'm at with it, bro, is it's just too fucking dangerous anymore. Like we talked about with the fentanyl man.
Everything's laced.
Yeah, even fucking pot that you could get on the street.
It's because they're touching it, because they have it, they're lacing it with something else, and it's on their fingers, and they're serving you bud.
Isn't it? And see, this is why I just love that we're having this conversation, bro, because, not to bring up sad things, but you think about guys like Juice, like Mac Miller, like Peep,
I got them all tatted on my arms.
Yeah, I know, man. We got that in common. We both like Peep, y'all.
Love Gus.
Yeah, and we're gonna play some music in a minute. I know I've said it a couple times. We're gonna hear some of his music, and I've told you this since I first heard your stuff. That it just has. I can tell he's been an influence on you because you have this. It's not Peep, but it has this Peep kind of vibe to it, to me. You know?
He definitely influenced me a lot. Everyone that I have, any artist I have tatted on me, played some role. And
well, hey, since you said so, bro, I got my Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers tat, my Stones tat.
Oh, so, I like the Stones one. I didn't even see the Stones one before. I like that one.
That's a unique tattoo, by the way, that my girl Maria, shout out Maria, did for me. I think that's a little bit of a generational thing, because they're, Tom Petty. There's another artist, though. Tom Petty died from, God bless him, man, an opiate overdose. Prince, man, it's just like so fucked up that these people who, guys like you, anybody, admires, loved their music, died from drug overdoses. And so kind of going back even to like the whole Caskey thing, man, as we both know, and, he's been very open about it. He lives clean now. When he was younger, man, he put a lot of music and videos out there glorifying drug use and stuff. And he got to a point, in his life, as he shares openly, where, he decided to give up his vices, get off of that shit, and start living clean. And man, this is, I kind of think, where I was going with the whole thing, going full circle. I love all his early stuff. That's when I start riding with him. He put his best music out, in my opinion, when he got sober. Clean, man. Like that, this isn't even my final form, man. Went to number one.
That album was very, very good, actually.
It's just all about living clean and sober and stuff. And now, Cadillac Music, all this other stuff, And so I just love that, he's being an inspiration, to young guys, because he ain't no spring chicken. Sorry, bro, but, how old are you, Brenda? If you don't mind me asking. 23, 24 years old. Caskey, I think, is like 31, 32 now. He's been in the game for a long time, man. And it's just so fucking cool that he's being such a positive influence on younger artists and young guys like yourself, and including an OG like yours truly, to be living clean, man. Fuck all that bullshit. Too many young artists, God, man, I think to myself, like, you probably know that Peep's estate and his mom, they just put out this new release, I don't know, about 3 months ago.
The Come Over When You're Sober Part 2 original, OG.
Yeah. And him and McConan together, man, put out this stuff. stuff, and it's just like, oh my God, he's gone, man. You know, I wish he was still making music, putting stuff out there. And it's like, man, you know, I don't think any artist, you know, other than like since Eminem put out the Recovery album, you know, has done more to promote living drug-free and a clean lifestyle since M put out, you know, Recovery than Caskey. You know, that's just my opinion, you know. And I think it's awesome. So anyway, bro, I appreciate you sharing with us your thoughts and feelings on that, man. So, okay, I've been teasing it for a while, a couple of times. We got to talk about or play some clips from some of your music.
Yeah,
man.
of course.
And so I first learned about your music a few years ago because although you're a young guy, 23, 24 years old, you've been doing this a while. And like we said, man, you went to Full Sail, which again, for people who don't know, man, Full Sail is like the real deal. It is a school here in the Central Florida area that has, put out producers, musicians, things to talk to us a little bit about your experience there.
At Full Sail? At Full Sail, it's I tell people all the time that it's low key. You don't need to spend the $80,000.
Oh, it's expensive, but like, it's the real deal.
It is.
Too.
It is the real deal. It is.
I got a sterling reputation.
I wouldn't be able to have made any of the music. I wouldn't be able to have my job right now. Right. If it wasn't for them. I absolutely owe everything to that school. I love that school. That school is amazing.
You evolved your passion there, and
they honestly they were able to turn me into a better me. Like like
I like that. Man.
There was so much work where I was having to work with professors, other students, and having to critique one another's projects. It really just taught me a lot about how to take criticism, how to give it, how to not get your feelings hurt over the littlest things.
Ego shit. Instead being more open to like constructive feedback.
Yeah, like everyone wants to help there. Like no one at that school doesn't. I mean, unless you're an asshole, like no one wants to see the other person fail. Like regardless of who you're in the class with, it doesn't matter. Professor, students, doesn't matter. Like everyone just wants to see one another succeed. And it really does kind of feel like a whole family there.
Yeah,
like, it really
makes you feel and really as a younger person start to believe that you can actually make a living at this. You know, because I think for a lot of younger people, man, making a living in the music business almost seems like a pipe dream to them. And I think when you attend a school like Full Sail, you start to realize, well, you don't have to be some fucking, famous, person, rich and famous person to make a decent living in the music business. And being around that environment and around people with interests and things, I think makes you realize, wow, this is really a possibility for me, man.
It does. And just like to put it into perspective, like the job I have now, and my friends know this, like they know about this story. They all interviewed for that job the same time I did. But I was the only one left standing, and they're doing their own thing, and they're all really super happy for me. But they made it known that they were happy for me. You know what I'm saying? They're like, dog, like you really deserve this. And they're just great people. Like I really don't know how to describe it. Like so many good people are at that school, and they might even be more talented at my job than I am. For God's sakes, they're crazy talented, but like that just shows you kind of how hard it is in this field. And just like that extra level you really need to have.
All the more reason, bro. And I swear to God, man, I don't want to sound condescending, but I'm so fucking proud of you, man. I am so proud of you. And I say this often, a better way to say it is proud to call you my friend, man. Because I know your struggles in the music business, I know you've worked hard to get where you're at, man. You're still a young guy, but you've come a long way. So let me talk about that, because I keep dancing around it, man. You know, I first heard your music a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we're going to play one of your older songs, just a clip from it, and then we'll play a clip from a couple of new ones. So this first one, before we play it, I just want to ask you a little bit. Tell us about what the inspiration, it's called Play This When I'm Gone. Because, you know, we talked about some of your music, man. It can be a little dark sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But that one, man, you hear that, it's like, whoa, what's this all about? So how'd the inspiration for that one come about?
This one was honestly not even too crazy of an inspiration from it. It was again just, you know, those dark thoughts kind of thing.
Yeah.
And MGK, I can't remember what the name of the song is off the
Machine
top
Gun
of my
Kelly.
head.
Yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yep.
I can't remember what the name of the song is. It might be like it might even be like Play This at My Funeral or something. Play This When I'm Gone or something. It might even be the same title.
It was a dark song.
Yeah, it was a dark song about basically like the aftermath of like what you want to be remembered for. And so I just kind of had like, I liked that idea, and I was like, I just wanted to try it. Like I wanted to try and see if I could make something that was like to my family, to my friends, like that they could play to remember me kind of by. Because like at the end of the day, I didn't really know what my last day was going to ever be.
Where you were at? Yeah.
Or ever going to look like, you know? So it was really just like, and as dark and as fucked up as it sounds, it was kind of just like, you know, worst case scenario, like, you know, like I do like want you to remember. And I kind of made it in the point of view of like a relationship, like with a girl, like but you know, that wasn't where my mind was at necessarily. It was like, oh, this is about this girl specifically. Like, it's about like, you know, my future wife type shit. Like, it's not about like someone right now. But that was kind of like my mind behind it was like, what am I gonna want to? What is it gonna want to sound like, and what is it gonna want to look like on my last day when I'm not here anymore? So it's like, you know, play this when I'm gone. Like, you open up the lost treasure kind of thing.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, I mean, we've all heard this before. Some of the best music is when people dig deep to their emotions, you know, with all respect to, you know, some of the pop shit. It's so formula. And, you know,
it's very saturated, to say the least.
It's so,
very saturated.
Where, man, you just gave us that explanation that, you know, this is a deep song, man. And I like it's got a little bit of a rocky kind of edge to it.
Yeah, I grew up on Cobain, you know, and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that's where so much of my inspiration comes from. And Linkin Park, like Chester, like God rest his soul. I love Chester. He was incredible. But those guys just inspire me all the time.
Well, I appreciate it, man. So, okay, we've been teasing the shit out of it. We're going to go ahead and play a clip right now. This is one of the first songs I ever heard from you, man, going back about 3 years or so ago. This one is from that boy, YHB. Play This When I'm Gone.
Damage thoughts on suicide. Used to dream about an overdose and bright lights, and the pills I could take down red wine just to get away from all the bad on suicide. Used to dream about an overdose and bright lights, and the pills I could take down red wine just to get away from all the bad times.
Whoa, man, that is the shit, bro. I love that song,
thank
man.
you.
That is so fucking cool. So anyway, you've come a long way since then because, like I said, that tune's a few years old, bro. And now, man, you know, working in the stew and all that other stuff and working on your craft and everything, you're working on some new music now. So tell us a little bit about that, because we're going to do one called Do You Know and then Lost City. So tell us about those.
So Do You Know was actually, this is like kind of the start of me being unapologetically me, like what we talked about earlier, which the songs are not going to be related to that project. Like I want to blueprint the fuck out of that project. So like that's still something that's in my notes, you know, that I'm just like writing down and everything. But you know, it was where I really started to really become vulnerable with, because like I said about the last one, Play This When I'm Gone, that was a hypothetical. Like that was like a hypothetical situation. Like me dying, I have kids, I have a wife, I wasn't supposed to die. Like I was, you know, whatever tragic reason. Like that was hypothetical. Like this is when I really started to say fuck it and like I'm gonna let what's in my brain come out to fruition and see what it is.
Right.
And
Last one.
ooh, I was pissed off.
Man,
I was mad.
That's
on that
another
one.
example of how you put emotion into music, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, if you know, it's such a great outlet and a healing tool, if you will, man. And so I've heard other artists say, "Oh man, I made that song. I was fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Man, I need it." So that's good.
I had just found out my ex, who was the one I was with during the summit, that we talked about was partially part of the reason why my creative was blocked and like I couldn't make the music I wanted to make. Not dogging her at all, because I still care about her, still love her, everything.
I mean, interrupt, but I remember now. I had forgotten that we talked about writer's block, at the time, and you're right, we did talk about that.
And like I said, not trying to bash her. Great friend. She's a good person. Like, whatever. I don't really give a shit. But
no, man,
I was pissed off.
People change.
Yeah. I was pissed off, and I had
Bro,
I had just played basketball.
So you know, let me just interject and say, I say this a lot on the podcast. I've been married and divorced twice.
Yeah.
I'm friends with both of my exes now. It wasn't always that way, as they know. Hi, ladies. I love y'all. But the point is I love them both to death now and wish them nothing but the best. It wasn't always that way. But the point is, people do grow and change. And then you look back and you say, wow, man, that was just part of my journey in life and part of their journey in life. And you try to remember the good times. But yes, man, when you're going through it, that is a little different. It's like, fuck that bitch or fuck that guy, or whatever. And you are pissed, and it's a great outlet to make music to get that emotion out of you. So I appreciate you explaining this, man.
And I was so mad because I just played basketball with her new boyfriend.
Oh shit!
And she was there and hid and just let it happen.
Jesus Christ!
And so
my God,
I literally went home from the gym, showered, started making a beat with my producer because we're roommates. It's my roommate. That's why I'm able to get so many songs out all the time, is because we just are constantly working.
And click.
It's like that's the whole reason why I moved out here, other than Full Sail, was to work with him. And he was like 17 or 18 at the time, and I was just starting college kind of thing, or my second go around of college. And so we made that beat, no lyrics for it. I had nothing for it. I was like, wow, this beat is like dark and like mysterious and like eerie. I was like, I need to go record on this right now.
Wow.
And I turned off all the lights in the studio. It was purely red and black in the studio.
Wow.
Like,
that
he was
creates
there.
a vibe. I know when I'm in the studio sometime, I dim the lights. I got these little green neon background lights. I get it, bro. I'm there with you.
And, obviously they'll hear the lyrics in a second. So, but it was all about just like feeling like I just got fucked over because you just broke up with me like 2 months ago, and now I'm playing basketball with like your new man who was actually your ex, and I was just so mad. And
well,
so
hey, bro, I can relate. I can relate, and before we play the clip, I just want to share with you, so you don't like feel alone in that shit. I know you don't, bro. I can tell you're a healthy guy, but it's like I remember I broke up with one of my exes, and like you just said, man, within a few weeks, she's out screwing around with one of my good time buddies. He wasn't like my best friend or whatever, but it was like a poker friend, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, well, damn, what was going on before we broke up? Were y'all playing footsie under the table or some shit? And so I get it, bro.
That's exactly how I
pissed.
felt.
Oh my God. Even though we were like broke up and it was over, I was pissed. Like, what the fuck? So, man, I'll tell you what.
backstabbed, like, you know what I'm saying?
I did too, man. I wish I was making music back then, because I might have been able to use it as an outlet. So I appreciate you telling that story, man. I get it. And I'll bet, like we said, maybe hopefully us talking about this might help even one more person who might be going through it. Because let's face it, man, when you're going through a bad breakup and a heartbreak, you feel
like you're alone.
It's fucking sucks. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, man. And so, man, being able to make music and vent those emotions as an outlet. We were talking about music therapy and the healing power of music. I can't thank you enough for telling us that story, man, because it makes me want to listen to this song in a different way now that I've heard the insight. So with all that said, y'all, let's give it a listen, and we'll come back and talk some more. This is from that boy YHB, new music, Do You Know?
I thought I lost my love, but she tore my heart out. she made me feel insane. Cause it seems like I know something is wrong. Do you know the feeling of sleeping alone? Blinded by the blood and the rum. Feeling broken and so tired of the way. I'm tired of the way she makes me feel like I'm going insane. I know something is wrong. Do you know the feeling of sleeping alone?
Whoa, another fucking banger, bro. I love it, man.
Thank you.
Like I said, man, I really appreciate you giving us the insight to the inspiration for the song, man. Makes it that much more powerful. Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like I'm mad, but I was more broken mad than like actually like fuck you, like stupid bitch. Like no, I was like, wow, you really just stabbed me in the back.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, you know what? That's part of a lot. I think most people's journey. Everybody goes through a heartbreak at some point or another. It's just, you know, for some people are able to process it better than others, whatever. But what I love about your music, man, is, as you've shared with us, is you do put emotion and your life experience into it. And so let's talk about this other new song you got coming, Lost City, man. What's that one all about?
It's exactly what the title says, really. It basically a lot of it has to do with sometimes it's never going to adjust how I am with my life or make me leave my current situation or anything like that. But there is a time where I think we mentioned it earlier, that Detroit connection, just missing home.
Man,
like, you know, and sometimes being here, especially once you get into more of like that, like Disney area of things.
Oh, I get
the
it,
city
bro.
feels so lost.
Yeah,
like,
they call it the Disney syndrome, man. I've heard it described
like,
as. Yeah.
And it, you know, that ex that I was just briefly talking about, her mom used to call Orlando the Walmart of Florida all the time.
Yeah, oh my God.
And so it's just like
that's a new one.
It's a good one,
just
right?
when you think you heard it all, you hear something new. That's a good
yeah,
one.
she was clever for that one. Great lady, but
and I love Orlando, by the way. I lived
do.
here 30 years, you know, but it's true what you say.
I really do love this place too, and that has nothing to do with anyone in my life, anyone that I know. Like, it has nothing to do with that. But this city sometimes feels really dead and really fake. Like, it doesn't feel like the city's being authentic, and that has nothing to do with the people or like anything like that. But you know, it just feels that way
theme
sometimes.
Park kind of thing. You know, you hear that about LA a lot too, you know. And there, though, they say it's kind of about the people, you know. A lot of plastic. Like, if you know, you meet people and they figure out there's no way you can help them, then they don't even want to fucking talk to you. And it's completely opposite of what you were talking about, like the bonding of the people you met at Full Sail who genuinely are happy for you.
Yeah.
We're out there in LA. If you can't help them, they don't give a fuck.
They don't give a shit.
You know?
They don't give a shit.
Plastic,
like, if you can't make the money, then get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah. But I know what you mean, man. There is that side of Orlando, especially down in the theme park area. It's fucking not reality. You know?
It's just it's just make believe happiness. Like, it's fake happiness, and that's where the lost city kind of comes from.
Yeah.
And so, just like, you know, we talked about it earlier today on the phone a little bit, or maybe that was yesterday, but. You know, sometimes it just all starts to add up. Like, the fakeness, the missing home, knowing what's back for you at home. And
yeah, you miss family.
yeah.
You know, I'll say this, bro. You know, we were talking about Detroit. It's like, you know, that's the hardest part about living away from home. You know, it's like I lived there for the first 29 years of my life. I have family there. I got 4 sisters, a brother, nieces, nephews. All them kids got kids. Some of them got kids. You know,
Yeah.
that's the hardest part about living away from home is I miss all that. But when I do have time with them, it's quality time. And, you know, and we talk and we text and all that other stuff. But sometimes there's just no substitute for being there in person. See, that's like I live out in Sacramento now to be near my daughter, Alyssa, and her husband, Cameron. I love them both so much to death. And I just wanted to be near them, you know. And I told him even when I moved out there, I said, hey, man, I promise I will not become overbearing or a burden on you. You know, I plan on staying busy, which I do. You know me, bro. I'm always doing something.
You're always doing something.
Yeah.
You're always somewhere doing something.
I know.
I swear, always
I
Glenn.
do. You know, I was telling Dean earlier that old saying, man, you know, you got type A personalities, type B personalities. I'm like a fucking AAA. I'm like,
I was gonna say, you're all the personalities.
I just keep going. Yeah. But the point is, man, you know, I guess where I was going with that is there's just no substitute for being close to somebody and at the spur of the moment, sometimes being able to say, hey, man, y'all free for dinner tonight? Let's get together, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so when I think about, you know, we're getting a little, you know, off topic here, but, you know, when I think about home and Detroit, I think about exactly what you're talking about. I'll also say, bro, the weather fucks me up there, man. I love the summers up there, but, man, that cold weather.
Man, it's cold right now in Florida.
Yeah,
it's like 63 degrees, and I'm like, I can't even believe I'm going back to Christmas in Michigan and about to be going to snow. Like
People in Detroit are saying, fuck you
I
right
know.
now. 63 is cold, man.
I swear, my blood.
People come down from up north, they're laying at the pool at 63.
They are.
Yeah.
And I get it all the time. Like, they'll be like, I'll have friends and they'll be talking on Xbox and they'll be like, oh man, it's like cold and wet outside and like it's winter's coming. Like, what's it like in Florida?
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, man, it just rained. It's like 70 degrees and it just rained. And they're like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, hey, it's cold right now. Like,
but it's
windy.
true. You know, there is that saying, I believe there's some truth to it that, you know, after you lived in, you know, the Central Florida or South Florida area, this is a tropical area, man, that after you've been here for a while, there's that old saying, I don't know if it's scientifically true, but that your blood kind of thins out, man. It thins out.
I don't know if it's true or not. Like science is cold, but like
you know?
it seems to be true. It seems like it's true, so I'm gonna believe it. I don't need to see the science behind it. Because it has to be true.
Yep.
Like my blood has to be thinner.
Right.
It has to be.
But anyway, okay, so we got off topic a little bit, but you know, I think that was a good conversation though when it, you know, as it relates to the song Lost City. Because I get it, man. It's like, hey, being away from, you know, I haven't lived in Detroit in over 30 years. I lived here in Orlando for 30 years. I've been out in Cali now for, you know, coming up on a year and a half, you know what I mean? And, you know, when I think about possibly ever living back in Detroit again, I love that city, man. I often say the Detroit Chamber of Commerce, they ought to fucking pay me a commission, man. For as good as I talk about that city. I'll also say I'm just at a place in my life, and I've been this way for a long time, like, nice place to visit, but I don't want to live there no more. You know what I mean? Just because I don't like the weather. You know?
It's really just the weather, because, like, I would love to move back one day. Like, I would,
maybe, you know.
But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. You know, I just say hey, never say never, man. You just never know, you know. But with all that said, talking about different cities, I think people can relate that have moved away from where they were born and raised and all that can relate. So anyway, tell us a little bit more about this song, man.
So,
it just came out not long ago, right?
It's actually going to be coming out.
Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a preview.
This one was for the preview. This one was the preview one.
Cool.
This one, so trying to backtrack in my head for a second. Yeah, this one, Lost City. Yeah, you're good. The Lost City. So yeah, basically, how I said, like, Orlando seems kind of fake at times. And in the chorus, there's only, like, I believe I said 2 different bars. Yeah, I think I said 2 different bars and had it repeating.
Okay.
And it basically starts with, like, memories of a tragedy, of a lost soul, and a lost city. And then, you know, that the memories of a tragedy is basically speaking on all of my memories of depression, of everything that I feel as though stems from my depression that I have to work on each and every day. And the song is basically kind of about how difficult that is, especially when you're in a lost city. Like, you know, your place that you're living in, you can't even help yourself because it needs help. So, you know, that's kind of like deep, where my mind was at. And then it goes into like angels crying or angels falling from the sky, sinners watch them cry, because I do feel like there is a lot of people in Orlando, or not even the people of Orlando, but like the people pulling the strings, like anything like that, like you know, they got some shit up their sleeves, you know. And
there's always some shit in the game. That's my favorite saying, man.
Like,
sometimes
even the ones that sin, you know, I'm not necessarily the most religious person in the world, but you know, even the sinners, you know, watch the angels cry in the sky, and so it's kind of just like, it's just like kind of like laughable, like you know what I'm saying, like
I get it, man.
Even the evil ones are watching the angels cry, and like, and they're doing not shit about it, like, so it's kind of like that. That's like my mindset.
Man, I appreciate the free sample of you singing a little bit. My man got a pen game too, y'all. You heard him telling us some of the lyrics. So let's go ahead and listen to a clip, y'all. This is from that boy YHB, Lost City.
Memories of a tragedy in a lost soul in a lost city. Angels falling from the sky, sinners watch them as they cry. Memories of a tragedy in a lost soul in a lost city. Angels falling from the sky, sinners watch them as they cry. My love, why'd it have to be this way? Oh, so it seems like you have chosen to be cold, and I feel so slow. It's an issue. Oh no, you had to go so soon, 'cause I miss you. Memories of a tragedy in a lost soul in a lost city. Angels falling from the sky, sinners watch them as they cry. Memories of a tragedy in a lost soul in a lost city. Angels falling from the sky, sinners watch them as they cry.
Hell yeah, there we go, Lost City, y'all, from that boy YHB. You got to go check out his Insta. We'll give his contact information in a minute. Go to the YouTube channel. Check out the whole song and the other stuff we played today, too. So, man, just love it, bro. And we just played a few clips today, but you got other music out there, too, man.
Yeah, and, you know, those songs are also the reason why I wanted to play those ones, is because it's going to be a part of an EP. And at the end of me making Lost City, I was just like kind of humming some melodies in my head to like for an outro, and that went into Do You Know? It didn't even make sense in my head until I did it, and I'm like, wow, I just made an EP and I didn't even mean to. And so now I'm intertwining a couple other songs that have very similar vibes, and I'm gonna drop an EP with them because I feel as though that they all tell a very similar story. And
I love it, man. I just love the way things kind of evolve and grow out of each other and all that stuff. That's so cool. Well, hey,
that
man,
was not my intention.
but I just can't thank you enough for being on the podcast with us, man.
I'm glad I could finally be on it, and in person too.
So glad
That's
it
even
worked
crazier.
out in person in the studio. We are here at the PFX Media Dare Me podcast studio in Orlando, Florida right now with our boy YHB, man. I'm so glad this worked out to have you on the podcast. Now you got to come back again, man. I got to have you back down the road.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was just thinking, man, I don't know when I'll see you next for sure, but I'm damn sure hoping we see each other in person at the next music summit, man. You know?
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, that's coming up in June, and I'm absolutely planning on coming? And we'll talk and communicate before that, man. So anything you want to add before we wrap up, bro?
Not really. Just, keep streaming. YHB on all platforms. Follow me on Instagram, YHB517.
Oh, here, we're going to bring it up right now, man. There we go. I'm glad you reminded me. There's the contact information. That's his Insta, YHB_517. And there's the phone number for bookings, and and shout out again to 212 Recording.
Yeah, shout out to my boys at 212.
Yeah,
I love
man,
all of
that's
them.
awesome, bro. And there's a link to your link tree with all the other stuff. So yeah, man, go do a deep dive, because like I said, we just played a few short clips from a few songs of yours today, but do a deep dive into his stuff, man. Check out the rest of that boy YHB's music. You'll fucking love it, I'm telling you, man. And I'm so looking forward to more stuff coming as we move forward down the road, man. Just keep doing
I want to get it out. I want to get it out.
Yeah,
so hopefully soon.
You know it, bro. Well, hey, thank you again for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
We will hopefully again have you again on the show down the road. All right? All right, peace. Thanks, man.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy YHB here with the OG Glenn Victor, and you're watching the Dare Me podcast.
Yes, you are. Wow, how cool was that, man? I hope y'all enjoyed that interview. We're back live now on the Dare Me podcast, and we just watched that interview with YHB. Had a couple exclusive clips from some of his new music that isn't even out yet that he let us play on the show. I really hope y'all enjoyed that. Shout out again, YHB. Thank you so much, bro, for granting that interview to us here on the Dare Me podcast. Dean, he was fucking awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did a great job. He did a great job. Talented kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like so cool, man. It just blows my mind. You called him a kid, I mean, he's a grown man. He's 23, but it just for him to have so much talent at that age, man, it's just like so inspiring, man. I'm like excited for his future, man, to see where he goes, because he is definitely up and coming. So thanks again, YHB, our boy Brendan. Thank you so much, man, for coming into the studio there when we met in person last Monday, man. And again, for giving us some exclusive music that we played on the podcast today. I'm just so thrilled that we were able to do that, and thrilled that I was able to bring that to all our viewers and listeners, man. And what great conversation we had too. So anyway, there you go, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that. So Dean, thanks for holding it down during the interview and all. And now, like I said, man, we are back live. I'm coming to you live here on the Dare Me podcast from Sacramento, California on the West Coast. And of course, Dean is all the way over on the other side of the country in Orlando, Florida on the East Coast. And I notice we had a couple people chime in the chat during the interview. Want to send a shout out to that boy Eric, who's become one of our regular viewers and listeners, and he's all the way up in Brooklyn, Michigan, and he's in our chat room. Just want to say hi to Eric. And I always say it, since you joined the podcast about a month ago, Eric, that Eric has been very open and honest with us here on the Dare Me podcast that he is still struggling with an opioid addiction and trying to get off of that shit, and has shared with us that he enjoys watching our program and listening, and that, we're kind of inspiring him to get off that shit. So Eric, we're glad to have you back again. And just a friendly reminder to you, bro, and to everybody else watching and listening, man, I see we got a whole shit ton of people still watching and listening. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in, y'all. And of course, always send a shout out to all of our viewers and listeners that come across the recorded version of the show, because after we finish up going live, we tighten it up a little bit, do a little editing on the front end where we have the countdown and all, and then we post the recorded version on that Dare Me podcast YouTube channel where it'll be till the end of time, and you can go watch and listen to it at any time. But I always like to send a shout out to people who tune in to the recorded version as well. But yeah, man, Eric, just wanted to let you know we said this on the front end, but we had a lot of people come aboard since then. We will be live on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and we're not putting a time clock on it. Dean and I agreed we're just going to do these marathon sessions of the show. God only knows what we're going to talk about. You know me, though. I've never had a loss for words, man. I start running my mouth, but we're hoping to take a lot of calls. We can always put a link in the chat room where you can click on and we can bring you on camera. If you have a camera at your computer or even just a smartphone, iPhone, Android, we can bring you right on camera if you're not shy and you want to be on. And we're really hoping to get a lot of people on the show Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, because we do this show every Sunday. And of course, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are on Sundays. And the holidays can be rough times for people sometimes. It's not always happy, joys, and free. Like the holidays can be a little bit of a challenge for people to get through sometimes, strained relationships. It's very tempting if you're trying to live and stay clean. And so Dean and I will be here with you, man. We'll help get you through it and we'll have some fun. I'm sure we're going to do all kinds of fun stuff, play music, talk about funny things, and just talk about some deep things too. So anyway, Eric's in the chat room and says, sounds good, Glenn. Hopefully, maybe we can get in there on cam with you.
We just had another one pop up from Brendan.
That's Brendan, our boy YHB. It was great being with both you guys. Thank you for having me. So, hey, Brendan's on there with us live in the chat room, man. Wow, Brendan, thank you so much again for the interview. Man, I just loved it. That was the first time I actually watched the whole thing from front to back. And man, I just thought it was great, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it too. I'm sure that they did. Oh, and there's Stephanie, and she said, love the interview too. It was great. It really was. I mean, yeah, I'll just say it, Brendan. I said, man, goddamn, I want to adopt you, bro. You're such a great guy, So I am so happy we were able to have you on the show. So anyways, y'all, with all that said, we are going to do our usual segment on the opioid crisis in the news and transition into that a little bit. We couldn't let this day go by without acknowledging, and there he is again, shout out to Brendan. We couldn't let this day go by without acknowledging that day before yesterday, in case you didn't see it in the news, they announced the autopsy results for that boy Matthew Perry, the actor from the TV show Friends and all that other stuff. And of course, there were a lot of us, yours truly included, that were paying special attention to what those autopsy results were going to be. Because if you know the story, Matthew Perry suffered from a horrible opioid addiction, just like yours truly. And I guess it was a couple of years ago, he came out like I have, and became very open about his addiction. A lot of people had already suspected things and knew things, but he did a book called The Big Terrible Thing and went on a book tour and a TV interview tour and all that, and told his story. He was very open about how it almost killed him, man. And, all the rehab experiences he had and just his struggles with it all. And he truly was helping a lot of people, including, again, yours truly. And I'm sure will continue to help people, even though he's gone now, by telling his story. Well, in any case, the autopsy results were just released a couple of days ago, and of course, a lot of people suspected that he may have relapsed. In case you didn't know, he was found in his hot tub face down, and he drowned. And of course, people wonder, well, what made him drown? Was he loaded? Was he fucked up? Whatever. They didn't find any. He wasn't under the influence of alcohol. They didn't find any pills at the scene or illegal drugs or anything like that. Unfortunately, what the autopsy results did reveal is that he had an unusually high amount of a drug called ketamine in his system. And it's also known by like the street name of Special K. And it did talk about in the article that I read on USA Today that he was on ketamine therapy. However, it was determined that the ketamine he was on was not from his therapy. Apparently, he hadn't had a dose from his therapy for, I think it was like a couple of weeks. And that shit only has a half-life of about 4 hours. So they say in the article that there's no way he could have had the level of ketamine in his system that he did unless he was taking it, as we'll say, like on the side. So here's the article from USA Today, and it says the cause. Of course, he drowned, but the cause that he was unconscious was what was called the acute effects of ketamine. And also, as it says here, coronary artery disease and the effects of buprenorphine that we've talked about on the show before is Suboxone. It's like an opioid replacement medication, I guess we can call it. So in any case, y'all, here's some more on it. I just really wanted to talk about this because it's just so sad, man, what happened. The dude was really, really trying to stay and live clean, and he carried such a positive message prior to him dying. And like it says here, there was no trauma or foul play suspected or anything like that. And again, it talks about everything I just described and some of the details. Here's some more on it. And this is, again, y'all, the USA Today article that we pulled and brought some information up. I hear it's talking about how his personal assistant was the last person to see him, and then somebody found him and all that. And here's some more. The medical examiner makes note that the amount of ketamine, which is considered a dissociative anesthetic, was found in his system at this level that's mentioned here. And like I said earlier, though he was reported to have been receiving ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety, the ketamine in his system at death could not be from that therapy. The method of intake was not really clear. And so here, talks about a little bit more. And then that article on the right there, I just thought we'd show that because Jennifer Aniston, who, of course, everybody knows from the show Friends, said recently that she actually, had communicated with him that day and said he was doing well in his personal life before his death. And she said he had quit smoking. He was getting in shape. He apparently was really getting involved in playing pickleball. And, she said, I was literally texting with him that morning. Funny Maddie, because he did have a good sense of humor and all that. He was not in pain. He wasn't struggling. Obviously, something was going on. And Dean, I'm just going to say it. You know this already. And I think, we can maybe talk about it a little bit more on one of these upcoming shows we're going to do over the holiday. Part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this so much, y'all. And God, man, I'm trying not to get emotional talking about it, is because we reached out to Matthew Perry and we tried to see if we could have him on the show. You know, some of y'all that are regular viewers or listeners know I'm one of them people that always says, you know, aim high, soaring, aim low, boring. And yeah, I thought, maybe it's a shot in the dark. You know, I've reached out to a lot of people trying to get them on this show, high profile people like Matthew Perry. And, you know, I sent a DM and, man, I just get bombarded with so much stuff on social media. It's just so hard to keep up with it all, you know. And Dean, as you know, I shared with you, you know, after he passed away, I'm on my social media and Insta actually, and come to find out, I got a fucking reply asking about the podcast, if I could tell him a little bit more about myself. God damn, man. You know, and so I didn't see the message till after he passed away. And yeah, man, maybe we'll even show it, you know, on upcoming edition of the podcast. And Dean, if you recall, you know, I haven't done it yet, but you suggested maybe I still replied to it. Maybe it might have been from,
you know, yeah, I mean,
or something.
I mean, there's that chance that the person who replied could have just been posing. You know, there's a lot of fan pages out there, and
oh no, this ain't no fan page. This
No?
is his official page, because
okay,
you know, on Insta, you know, you get that little that check
Yeah.
mark thing. That
Oh.
means it's the real deal. So no, this wasn't no funny business. This
Right.
was his authentic page.
from
I will say
just the way he
People have a
the
publicist.
yeah, it didn't seem like it would have come from a publicist. The publicist would have said, "Hey, thank you for reaching out and
Yeah,
blah
I
blah
agree.
blah. Mr. Perry will be happy to look over." You know, and it wasn't like that. It seemed very real, and it seemed
Seemed
very personal.
Yeah, yeah, like, hey, you got my attention. Can you tell me a little bit more
Yeah.
about yourself? Yeah. So anyway, y'all, God, I just thought I'd share that fucking story. How bizarre, man. You know,
That gave me chills when you told me that.
yeah, I know. How to think about me when I saw the reply, I was like, oh my God, you know. So anyway, y'all, with all that said, I was telling Dean earlier when I decided to talk about this on this podcast that we've never talked about ketamine on this show, or Special K. Certainly I've heard of it and I know about it. I
thought ketamine was, and I remember it was there was a thing in a movie like 20 years ago that somebody said ketamine, they were using it as an animal tranquilizer. So I don't know if that's the
I don't know. I know it's like we just saw. They called it dissociative anesthetic. So yeah, maybe,
Right.
it is. You know, I know that xylazine is an animal tranquilizer, but let's talk about ketamine a little bit. So here we got this slide. What are the effects of ketamine? And like it says here, it's an FDA approved, by the way, anesthetic. And over the past few decades, it's also been hailed for its fast acting antidepressant effects. Who knew? You know, like I started to say, I've never used ketamine, or, you know, I know it was popular in the clubs for a while as Special K, I guess, but
I'm having a hard time for a drug that's considered a depressant. It's not a stimulant, it's a depressant. And then to say it's an antidepressant, it's like giving somebody alcohol to wake them up, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but I'm looking at that and going, from what I know, you take stimulants to go up, you get uppers to go up, downers to go down. This seems like a downer, and why they're saying that, and I looked on Wikipedia, the same thing. I was doing that while you were talking, and I'm going, they don't say, they say in some cases people can, yeah, it's not like, you know, don't think that, you know, oh yeah, if I'm depressed, I'm just going to take ketamine, go to sleep and drown in a hot tub. That's not you know,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it
by
just
the
seems
way,
a little odd, you know,
yeah.
that.
Well, here we're going to talk about it some more. But by the way, I want to acknowledge. You had said, Dean, you thought you had heard it was a animal tranquilizer, and Eric's in the chat room with us, and he
It's
says
horse
it's
trank.
known as horse trank.
Okay.
So there you go. But let's talk about it a little bit. So, like it says here, because see, like I said, y'all, I mean, here we're doing a podcast all about drugs and addiction and everything. I feel kind of naive about ketamine, and so that's why I want to talk about it a little bit here, because we very well may have viewers and listeners struggling with a ketamine addiction. Or considering using it as an alternative, to maybe help take the edge off while they're going through opiate withdrawals or whatever the fuck, just like Matthew Perry apparently was. So it says here in 2019, which ain't that long ago, y'all, just a few years ago, the FDA officially approved, and I guess that's the clinical name for it, esketamine or ketamine nasal spray for depression. It's administered, I guess, like a nasal spray, specifically major. And I think that's an operative word there, specifically major depressive disorder with suicidal ideation and treatment resistant depression, meaning they've had to try, as it says there, at least 2 other alternative antidepressant treatments before they'll prescribe this. Wow, that's kind of interesting. So let's go to this next slide. How is it abused, and what is Special K? The street name for it. So, like it says here, I to read, y'all, but let's go over this. The painkiller ketamine can be used as a sedative or a treatment for depression, but it's also known as a club drug that can produce dissociative sensations and hallucinations, according to the DEA. And it first caught interest as a counterculture drug, apparently, all the way back in the 70s. Who knew? I fucking didn't know. And reemerged as a club drug, Special K, in the 2000s. That's the first time I had heard of it, but I just never fucked with. Of course, I was clean during that time. So what happens in ketamine therapy? Let's talk about that for a minute, because as we saw in that USA Today article, apparently Matthew Perry, although the amount of ketamine they found in the system, in the autopsy was, not what he was getting in the therapy, but apparently he was
let me hop
getting,
off that.
that therapy. What do we got here, Dean?
Well, let's just go back to this.
Okay, yeah. Well, I see.
wanted to show you something.
Side effects, but here it says, according to this noted psychiatrist, each session varies by patient, which is exactly what you were alluding to there earlier, Dean. Everything affects people differently. There's no silver bullet or no fucking pixie dust they sprinkle over everybody and, oh, now you're going to be okay. Fuck, wish it was that easy. It affects everybody different. And just like it says here, it varies by patient. But standard treatment occurs twice a week for 4 weeks, then once a week for another 4 weeks. So it sounds like it's this very compartmentalized, almost like formulated treatment. It can legally be administered orally or through an IV injection, but intranasal ketamine is the only FDA approved method so far. And then it says during the session, people often experience an altered trance like trip that lasts approximately 1 or 2 hours. They may also be guided with talk therapy, also known as ketamine assisted therapy, talk therapy, where they, I guess, so like a guided meditation. What this tells me, though, man, is that, there's obviously, boy, when they talk about an altered trance-like trip, it makes me think it's like fucking getting high, So, I mean, God bless Matthew Perry. We all know, man, the dude had a long struggle with, substance abuse disorder, drug addiction, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and was really, really trying for years to get, live, and stay clean. had clearly relapsed. I'll just say it,
Yeah.
I said it. If he was abusing ketamine to obtain what it says right here, an altered trance-like trip, and they've determined the amount in his system was not from the therapy he was going through. He had a very high amount of it in his system long after his last session a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, y'all, he relapsed, and this is what he had relapsed on. And so and again, y'all, I ain't trying to sound mean or nasty or evil. Relapse is part of my story, not once but twice. And so it's one of those things having to do with addiction where I think a lot of times, especially in the 12-step programs, we don't like to talk about. We don't like to acknowledge it. There's that saying around the rooms, relapse is not a requirement, and we put these people with long-term clean time who've never relapsed on a pedestal, and oh my God, and I say it myself, like, hey man, them guys are my fucking heroes. Real ones though will tell me, oh Glenn, don't put me on no fucking pedestal, man. I'm just one bad choice away from fucking up like anybody else. What I will say is that relapse, unfortunately, is a reality. It is more common than I think we like to acknowledge in general, but even specifically in the 12-step rooms, and it's more common than I think people think. And unfortunately is a part of the sickness. Thank God that I was somehow able to pull myself out of that madness and now have, 2 years, 9 months clean again. I'll also say, man, like we say, I just got today, man. I can't fucking say I'd never use again. That's when I would get worried about it. If I got cocky, say, oh, I ain't never fucking getting high again. I can tell you I ain't getting high today, and that'll start all over again tomorrow based on the amount of maintenance I put into my program, my recovery. That's why I often say, man, like this podcast, I hope truly helps someone else. It also is a big part of my recovery and helping me to keep my thinking in check that, hey man, this shit could take me out in a New York second with one bag choice. So anyway, I didn't mean to go on and on about that, but I just thought, we're talking about this with no disrespect at all. God bless Matthew Perry. He was an inspiration to me, even now after his passing, that this is what can happen if I fucking go out again, or anybody else who may be watching or listening, that's trying to stay and live clean, man. This is what can fucking happen, even with fucking something like ketamine. Who fucking knew? So anyway,
likely the drug didn't kill him. It was probably the drowning, obviously,
Well, but okay, they're saying he drowned, but why did he drown? Because he was unconscious from taking too much ketamine.
Well, yeah, it's an anesthesia, so it'll put you to sleep. It put him to sleep. The big mistake was to, I'd probably consider that an accidental drowning. Now you take fentanyl, and you could get a hot dose of fentanyl and you're dead. There's just but the ketamine, likely it was the drowning that really punched his time clock.
Oh, there's no question. I'm not debating you on that.
Yeah. No, but still, it's.
Well, let me just say, Dean, you made a point. People that overdose on fentanyl, that's accidental too. They don't do it intentionally. They're hoping that, number one, if they know there's fentanyl in it, that it's not a lethal dose, but they're so fucking addicted that they can't help it. They got to take it. Or number two, they're hoping whatever it is they're taking don't have any fentanyl in it.
Right.
But again, they're so hopelessly addicted, they can't help it. They take it anyway and they fucking die. So that's accidental to me, just like I believe Matthew Perry's death was accidental. He took an amount of ketamine that apparently, he was, not thinking would make him be unconscious and be found face down in the water. I believe it was accidental. I do.
I had surgery 2 weeks ago today, and I'm wondering if they used ketamine to put me under.
That might be a good
It
question to
seems
ask.
like from what I'm reading, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if I get those kind of, the hospital bill hasn't shown up yet. So, but I'm just kind of wondering,
Yeah.
I had a conversation with the drug guy and the anesthesiologist,
Yeah.
I never, you understand that you're talking to professionals who know what the hell they're doing. So,
But you have every right to know. Most people won't ask that
probably
question,
right.
but you have every right to know, to say, "Hey, what is it you're going to be putting in me, or what did
Yeah.
you put in me?" I think it's better to ask on the front end, like,
And
what's this drug you're about to put me under with?
well, they asked me, but I didn't even think to ask them. But looking at the short term on the screen here, I mean, look at this. This is crazy. Dizziness,
Yeah,
double
yeah, the
vision,
side effects.
euphoria, blurred vision, hard to express emotions, high blood pressure, fast heartbeat, feeling sick and vomiting, nightmares, illusions, hallucinations. I mean, this is
Yeah.
like this is
Well,
a
you know what?
cocktail of disaster.
Oh, Dean, you're exactly right, bro. And I appreciate you bringing this up because this is a great point. It goes back to something I say on this podcast a lot. And believe me, I get it. I know I say it a lot, y'all. There's no silver bullet when it comes to trying to recover from addiction, because clearly I do believe that in Matthew Perry's case, he was using ketamine therapy to help get him through his opioid addiction. It's what we've talked about on here many times. Medication assisted treatment, harm reduction, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Somewhere along the line, he heard about or was told about ketamine therapy and how it could help him. And he obviously was doing that. I think what had happened was, just like even when you start off taking opioids, is then it got a little bit out of control and he started getting extra on the side, and he took too much, passed out in his hot tub, and was found face down in the water, drowned. So yeah, accidental death. But the point I'm making is, man, what you said, Dean, there's no fucking silver bullet with any of these medications. There's always a
Yeah.
shit ton of side effects. You reminded me of something, Dean. You ever see these television commercials for all these different medications, whether
Oh
it's
God,
fucking
yeah.
cholesterol, high blood pressure, ED, whatever. And they're talking about it, and they play this, very homey music, and they show the couples in the family. And then near the end, some guy will talk about the side effects, and he speaks at like 90 miles an hour. And the side effects include this, blah, 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 blah. It's
Which
like,
they
oh,
would have had to put him on speed to say that fast. And
yeah, yeah. But no, I'm
wow.
glad you showed that information, because again, for anybody who may be, thinking about ketamine therapy or just using it recreationally, fuck man, that's a shit ton of side effects. So, here again, we're back to these other slides where, what happens in ketamine therapy. We
Yeah.
talked about this one already, y'all. So yeah, let's move on from that, to something maybe a little more positive. But before we do, y'all, God bless, Matthew Perry. And wow, isn't that fucking bizarre, y'all? We reached out to him here on the Dare Me podcast to see if we could have him on as a guest. And unfortunately, man, I didn't even see the response we got until after he passed away. So, Dean, I think I'm going to take your suggestion and go ahead and reply to that. And, I have to wordsmith it in some way,
Yeah.
that, hey, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, we didn't even realize we got a reply
Yeah.
after Mr. Perry passed away. We would still, like, first of all, of course, extend our condolences, and maybe we'll get a reply. Maybe it was
Yeah.
from his camp, a publicist. People have social media marketing managers that oversee
Yeah.
all that shit, because, like I said, God, I get bombarded with stuff just from what we do with this podcast and what I post on social media. Can you imagine what a guy like Matthew Perry must have gotten, in that regard.
And
So
then he
that's
saw
why,
it and he responded. Yeah.
yeah, all the more reason fucking blows my mind.
Well,
Like
when
said,
you do talk about this again, go ahead and screenshot that conversation
yeah,
a
I
little bit
will.
so we can
So there
more
again,
visuals.
y'all, little teaser to tune in for those upcoming episodes over the holidays. We're going to show the response we got and talk about a little bit more. But like you said, Dean, I like you got chills when I told you that's how I
Yeah.
felt when I saw the reply after the fact. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So anyways, y'all, yeah, let's move on. We're almost near the end of the show, and we're going to transition into some shout outs and something on a more positive note, if you will, because obviously that's a sad story, y'all. But like we said, he was living clean for a while and really on track to staying and living clean. And certainly, a lot of people do. And so we got to send our first shout out to this girl, Cece, one of our friends from up in the Midwest in Detroit City. And if that face looks familiar to you, you may remember we had Cece on the show a while back. We did a shout out. She wasn't personally on, although I'd love to have her on the show maybe one day. But she's a friend of the Dare Me podcast. She did message me today thanking us for doing a shout out. But we had her on a little while back because she was in a horrible car crash. Remember that, Dean? And we showed all the pictures.
Oh,
where
yeah.
driving down I-75 up in Michigan, and a fucking telephone pole fell in the median right onto her car, and like got literally 2 seconds later she would have been killed. But she was banged up pretty good. But look at this, man, you can tell she healed up great. And now guess what, she posted this, and just day before yesterday celebrated 3 years clean. Oh my God. And I'm just going to read it, y'all. She posted so much gratitude for the little life I have, the beautiful people in it, and the opportunities to grow from obstacles that I choose every single day not to use over that are helping me to grow to be the woman God has always intended me to be. My life has never been as beautiful as it is today. 3 years. And I'm sorry, I'm getting filled up, y'all. And Cece, if you see this or you're watching, man, I'll tell y'all, I replied to her post, and one of the things I put in there was big congrats. And then I was like, I'm so happy about this. I'm not crying, you're crying, because if you know my story, y'all, I'm not going to go into the long, detailed version right now. I've told it many times on this podcast before. We're into episode 40 now, and I'll tell it again. But Cece was one of the people that was there when I got clean this time. My 3 years, good Lord willing, will be coming up in March. So just a few months down the road, again, good Lord willing. And that's where I met Cece at the best home group in the world at Eastside Elno Club in East Detroit City. Hey, man, I love my other home groups. I got my home group here in Sacramento, the No Drama Group, Swoey in Orlando. But I will say, man, that Eastside Elno daily maintenance meeting, 10 o'clock p.m. every single night, 365 days a year, man. I attended that meeting for a few months when I was up there kicking, y'all. And met so many wonderful people who helped me to get where I'm at now. I mean, I literally was dope sick. God damn, man, I get so filled up talking about it. I was literally dope sick in those rooms. And Cece was one of the people I met. And, let's face it, at that time, she would have had about, a few months. And when I first met her, and she was still, kind of working her way through it at the time too. So when I said this makes me so happy, I was, dead serious, y'all. For Cece to have 3 years clean, I'm just so thrilled. And oh my God, y'all, look how beautiful she is. She's like my little sis. Is kind of how I think of her. So shout out, Cece, love you so much, man. And she posted this too. There's these apps that you can subscribe to, Dean, and anybody else, they're like clean time countdown apps. And it calculates each day for you. So yeah, she posted this 3 years, 36 months, 1,096 days, 26,280 hours. How fucking cool is that? So yeah, man. Hey, Eric in the chat, if you're still watching, bro, here's proof again that it can be done, man. If you really want to get clean and rough it through the withdrawals and the hard times, man, you could celebrate 3 years clean too. So now, here's the cool part about it. There were not one, not two, but 3 people I know who all celebrated clean dates, clean time anniversaries, birthdays, whatever you want to call it, on the exact same day. And another one of them is this guy right here, that boy Jeff, who is another friend of mine from that same home group, y'all. They all celebrated together. And oh my God, man, Jeff has 6 years clean. Shout out, Jeff, man. I'm so, oh God, I was going to say so proud of you, but that's not so out here. I'm so proud to call you friend, man. Yeah, thank you for playing that applause, Sounder Dean. And man, like he I know I say on here a lot, y'all, I don't like reading to you. I'm just gonna fucking read what he posted because this is powerful. So first off, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped me get and stay clean 6 years ago. God damn, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through this. I was a hopeless druggie. I shot heroin, cocaine, meth, and then some. I was homeless. My children, my family, and even the people in the spot got sick of me. I was a criminal. I did what I had to do to get well. Today, I live a life I never dreamed I could. I have taken care of all my legal issues. I'm even in the process of expunging them, so that can be done too, y'all. I'm a homeowner. Live with my loving kids and wife, have a good job, but most importantly, I love me again. Damn. I have found myself surrounded by the most amazing people. God damn, y'all, sorry. Clean and serene. And then he says, I also stopped gambling 881 days ago as it started destroying my life too. And he says, with my God and my program, life is now limitless. So if you're struggling, Eric, if you're paying attention, and anyone else who may come across our podcast that's still struggling, as Jeff with 6 years clean now says, so if you're struggling, remember, there is hope. I didn't believe it either. Reach out. Let someone know that you're struggling. Reach out to me, he says. And, he put this on social media, y'all. Y'all can go follow him. Send him a DM. He says, reach out to me. I'm here. If I can do it, so can you. So powerful, Jeff, man. Thank you for that powerful message, and thank you for sharing that, and congrats. And then he goes on to say, I also would like to congratulate my clean time partners, CC Myers, who we just did a shout out to with 3 years clean. And then he says, shout out to that boy Lance with 2 years, who we're going to talk about in just a second. And then he says, lost dreams awaken. We do recover. So shout out, Jeff. Congrats on that 6 years. And as he referenced, there's that boy Lance. He's another friend of mine from that same home group, y'all. And he says, nobody wins by accident. Thank you to all the beautiful people I have met and have helped me in my process. 2 years clean. And man, there's a picture of, they give out these, what we call clean time key tags at recovery meetings. Those are NA specifically. In an AA meeting, you're, more likely to get a chip. And then you can see next to it is this medallion. And that's a cool ass medallion, by the way, Lance. They have, the basic ones that they give out at meetings. This was one that specialized one somebody ordered for him. So anyway, I know all 3 of them people, y'all, from that Eastside Alano group up in Detroit, Michigan. I miss y'all all the time and can't thank each and every one of y'all enough for helping me when I, thank God, was able to make it back and drag my ass back into the rooms at the Eastside Alno Club where I used to go when I was a younger man with my tail between my legs. That I had fucking relapsed. But thank you guys so much for welcoming me back, not judging me, and helping me to get to where I'm at today. So, like I said, y'all, so proud of y'all, but proud to call you friends even more. So anyway, y'all, yeah, I said I was going to be on a happy note, and here I am getting all filled up. But those are happy tears, y'all, you know, because I'm just so grateful for them people, because as we've talked about on this podcast many times, I sat right next to people in that meeting and many others, just like I've sat next to these three who are no longer even alive, man. You know, we would hear about it all the time, still do, man. People, you know, come into the meetings, they're struggling, they're trying to get or stay clean, and then you come back the next night or a couple nights later, they're not there. And you find out they, you know, used and maybe got a hold of some of this bullshit fentanyl stuff out there, and they're fucking dead. So yeah, man, I do get emotional, you know, about it, because I'm just so grateful that I'm still alive. And of course that our friends we just talked about are still alive too, and still doing this and helping others. So anyway, y'all, with all that said, congratulations to them again. Now we are going to wrap up the show a little bit, y'all, or show a couple funny memes a little bit, and then we'll wrap up the show within like just a few minutes, y'all. And we always like to do this each week because, let's face it, man, we get into some deep topics on this show, some emotional topics, some sensitive topics like we just talked about, where I'm fucking getting filled up live on the internet all around the fucking world. So yeah, man, try to end it on a little bit of a humorous note. And with it being the holiday season, we had to show this one. Shout out, by the way, to that friend of ours, Capitan Tuttle, that friend of Billy Bob Thornton, who's a viewer of our podcast. In case you didn't know, y'all, we got a shout out from, Billy Bob Thornton. That Billy Bob Thornton, the actor, gave us a shout out to the Dare Me podcast. If you go back and look at some of the previous episodes, you'll see we'll play them again next week. We're going to do all our shout outs next week and New Year's Eve. But anyway, our friend Capitan Tuttle posted this, and I sent him a text, or her a text. I said, I got to lift this, man. And so, yeah, there's a drunk Rudolph stumbling through the snow, comes across a traffic light with the red light blinking and says, Dad, you know. So I thought that was funny. And certainly, relative to our show being all about, you know, you got to have a sense of humor about this shit. Here's another one that I thought was kind of funny. The evil Santa. You know, I saw this thing online where somebody was talking about, man, you know, when you think about it, Santa Claus and what we teach our kids is kind of fucking creepy, you know. Like, you know, you tell your kids, yeah, there's this weird guy in this big red suit, and he sneaks into our house down the chimney, you know. And it's like, what the fuck? You know, I get it, you know, we try to, you know, let our kids have some innocence as kids and all, but like, we got to do a deep dive into where did that fucking tradition start, because that's really kind of creepy. So, you know, like I said, I saw this one, I thought it was kind of funny. Merry Christmas, I know where you live, you know. So anyway, that's kind of funny. And then this one I thought was kind of funny, not really holiday related, but you know, I do go on and on different topics on this show sometimes, and I thought, I've often wondered what people have against the horse I rode in on. That might be a little crude if you know what that's playing off of, but you know, people will often say, F you and the horse you rode in on. So yeah, there you go, y'all. And then finally, we have one final funny thing we're going to show, and this is a quick video. And man, this is only 5 seconds long, so you got to pay attention and watch it close. Here's that boy, Mr. Rogers. Check it out, y'all.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
Should we play it again? Okay,
I
I will
have
play
to.
it
Yeah,
again.
you
Because,
gotta
you
play
know,
again.
and again, this may be a shout out to our friends CC and Jeff and Lance on your Clean Time anniversary. It's got, you know, some cocaine and a glass of Coke there. And Mr. Rogers is talking about he's proud that you chose the Coca-Cola. Let's watch it again.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
Obviously, somebody took a clip from one of his shows and made that meme, but thought that was a good way to maybe end the show on a humorous note, y'all. So there we go. Full circle, man. Another long show again, Dean? But it was a great one, man. You know, of course, we had that boy YHB, our friend Brendan, on. What a great interview. What a great kid. We call him a kid, you know, but he's a grown man, you know, he's 23 years old, man. But what a talented artist. And man, just such a great person. We really appreciate you, Brendan, doing that interview with us and giving us exclusives on 2 upcoming songs that we played clips from. So, yeah, man, I can't encourage y'all enough to go check out his stuff a little bit more and do a deep dive into YHB's music out there on all the platforms, whichever one you like the best. I know he's on Apple Music, he's on Spotify, he's on YouTube, all the things. So anyway, with all that said, y'all, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. As we always say when we get near the end of the show, if you're going through hell, you're struggling with addiction, trying to kick, going through mental challenges, whatever it may be, keep fucking going, man. You can get through it. If I can get through it, if our friends CC, Jeff, Lance, and all the others that, you know, are part of our show can get through it, you can too. And with all that said, just a friendly reminder, we're going to be on next week on Christmas Eve and the following Sunday on New Year's Eve for a long marathon session of the Dare Me podcast. We're not even going to put a time clock on it. We're just kind of going to sort of go till we run out of gas. We'll ring in the new year together live on the internet all around the world together here on the Dare Me podcast. And we invite you to maybe call in. You can come in. Eric said he'll click the link and come on camera with us. So we're looking forward, because Eric's been in our chat room live for, God, like a month now, and we're finally going to get to talk to him and see him on camera if he follows through. So we're going to hold you to that, Eric. But anyway, with all that said, y'all, it's a busy week, of course, for everybody with the holidays and everything. Yeah, I meant to mention to you on the front end of the show, Dean, I saw on the news, y'all are getting hammered with rain all over the state of Florida right now. It's going to be tough doing Christmas shopping this week, eh?
No, it actually ended. It mostly ended early this morning.
Oh, okay.
Saturday was kind of a heavy day. I actually saw about 4 inches of rain kind of fill my pool up, but
right.
Yeah, so it was yeah, I think we're kind of it didn't rain at all today. So
yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, I was watching the national news and it said this system was going to move all the way up the East Coast, but it hit Florida first is what it was. Yeah. Well, on the other side of that coin, though, out here in California, man, we're supposed to get hammered with rain for like the next 4 days in a row, man. In fact, I had sent a message to my daughter. There's a light show in town that, you know, you can go walk through all these lights and stuff. And I thought maybe we might try to do that one night this week. But then I messaged her today like, oh, I don't know, man, that might not be a good idea. It's like 90% rain chances for the next, I think 4 days this week. So I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, man, whatever you're doing this week, wherever you're at, whatever the weather's like, you know, it's probably snowing up in the Midwest. We're talking about rain. You know, we hope you have a safe week. Be careful out there, man, because people are out hustling and bustling for the holidays, all the last minute shoppers. A lot of times people like to take the edge off around the holidays and get a little too jolly, you know, so just keep that in mind when you're out on the road, man. A lot of people are out there driving under the influence, so just be a little extra careful. And again, happy holidays to y'all. We look forward to talking to you on Christmas Eve next Sunday. How cool is that going to be? So, Dean, with all that said, thank you again for being a rock star, man. What a great show. I appreciate you holding it down, getting everything on, the videos, the slides, and everything like that. I thought it was a great show. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, bro?
Looks like Eric gets the last words for the night.
Right on. He's still with us. Look at that.
He's still with us. He's hanging in there to the very end here.
Yes.
I also just, being that this is the first time we're streaming on Twitch. So I want to, and we've had viewers from Twitch tonight. So I guess we're going to keep going in that direction. And so thank you all on Twitch for watching us.
Yeah.
And so
hey, I'm glad you mentioned it, Dean. Welcome and peace to all of the people on Twitch, because man, I know we talk about it a lot sometimes on the front end, but we're a couple hours later into the show. We get people who leave and new viewers and people who leave and come back and all. We are live all over Facebook, half dozen YouTube channels, live on LinkedIn, live on Threads, live on X, live on now Twitch, and all the things. So for people that join us live, man, we just love it.
We've had somebody on Twitch for the entire broadcast. We've had somebody.
And then you tell me, I know we're going to talk about more next week, but now Insta, I always post the link in the Insta profile.
That's coming. That is coming.
That's coming too. Yes. So man, we just keep growing, it's like so cool. And then of course, like I often say, we post the recorded version of the show after it's done. We kind of tighten it up, little edits on the front end. We get rid of that timer and all that and put it on the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel. And we'll do a premiere of that on Wednesday for this edition of the show. And then you can go there and watch it and listen to it anytime you want. And believe me, man, we get it. We know this show goes long and not everybody watches or listens to the whole damn thing or even all at once. But as I often say, man, we like giving people who maybe are struggling, still trying to climbing the walls, something they can watch that hopefully is inspiring to them while they're trying to kill time, because that's a lot of it, man. When you're kicking is letting the time go by. So, in this day and age of micro content where you're on TikTok, somebody ain't got your attention in 5 seconds. Next. That's not what this is, man. We understand that, but that's not what this show is. This is an in-depth podcast, man, that, like I hear a lot of people say, yeah, man, I watch for a half hour. Then I come back the next day, watch, another half hour, maybe the next day, an hour, whatever. So you can come back in and out of this podcast anytime you want. But all the more reason for all our new viewers on Twitch that stuck with us all night. I see we still got people watching and listening. And of course, to that boy, Eric, in the chat room, who stuck with us right up to the end and just typed in, see ya, Glenn and Dean. Have a good night, guys. Well, on that happy note, you have a great night too, Eric. Hang tough, and everybody else, have a safe week. We'll talk to you next week on Christmas Eve. Happy holidays, everyone. Be safe. Have a good night. We'll talk to you next time on the Dare Me podcast.